Welcome back, and we move on to Challenger League, Joe Esports versus The Last Dance. I'm Jackie Jing, and I'm with Kix and Intero. Gentlemen, we just wrapped up day 2 of the Canada Division, and excited to see some CL play. How y'all feeling?
I'm good. I've eaten now, so I feel better.
Yeah, y'all grinding.
Yeah, I had some, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Oatmeal, and I think Intero ate a cupcake, so there you go. I'm glad that you got some nutrients in.
Only this much of the cupcake.
He only got a little bit in there.
Just a tiny bit of it.
Okay, so if Kix is talking for a long time, maybe you can eat some more.
I mean, I'll power through.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for powering through, and I'm glad you got the oatmeal and the cupcake in. Let's talk about the CL, though. And last week we saw PogChamp versus Spiker. PogChamp came out on top, and now Joe Esports taking on The Last Dance today. So, gentlemen, for those who aren't too familiar with CL and how this all works out, maybe you could break that all down for us. Kix, I'll start with you. Maybe Parker can eat some of his cupcake while you're talking.
Yeah, so the way that CL works is actually strikingly similar to the way that we have PL work, but to a smaller scale, of course. We have our 2 groups in CL, and they go head-to-head. And we have our winners matches, elimination matches, decider matches, and so on, much like you would expect in your regular competition. Today, we're going to have 1 match show up on stream, but in the meantime, we've also got other matches happening off stream, so keep that in mind. The match that we're going to be watching today is The Last Dance versus Joe Esports. Now, that's the crucial one. That's, I think, one that a lot of people are excited for. Joe Esports is a known quantity and have been for a while. They're a pretty formidable team. And then The Last Dance is a very exciting team, as it is Young's team. And I'm sure a lot of you longtime viewers of Siege Esports are familiar with Young. So it'll be Young, Butters, Rainbow, Spades, and Kilo on that squad, and they have been looking pretty formidable. They did manage to 2-0 Beast Coast, which is another fairly well-known Challenger League team in the U.S. division.
Yeah, we've actually got four former pros in this lobby right now. We've got Spades, we've got Young, we've got Beastly, who's on Joe Esports, we got Butters as well. So The Last Dance making some roster moves. Obviously named after the Michael Jordan documentary. Or the Bulls documentary, is it?
I don't know sports references.
Definitely a sports documentary. Was it on Netflix?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. It was. Yes, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, this is the sort of stuff that makes me feel like a wet sock.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well,
that's on me.
We're totally off the rails.
But we've got, I mean, the match, if we could focus in on that, is like super exciting. This is going to be a pretty good match. I think everyone's really anticipating this one. The level of competition we can anticipate going into this is super high.
Well, I know for Playday 2 of the Canada Division, it was pretty chaotic. What are you guys expecting to play out today? And are you leaning towards one team more than the other? And Tara, I'll start with you.
I mean, looking at the roster and looking at the pedigree of these teams and how they did last week, I think there's obviously some really strong performers on Joe, but it's just I would put my money on The Last Dance. That's really what it boils down to. You know, I think that they're one of the favorites right now in U.S. Challenger League. I think they're up there with PogChamp. I think Joe is slept on, but Joe Esports, they didn't fare as well against Favela as The Last Dance. Absolutely eviscerated Beast Coast 2-0, and they've got a lot of heavy hitters and good performers on this team, and some baked-in chemistry with Young and Spades as well from their time on EG.
Okay, Kix, what about you?
It's really hard. Like Parker said, it's really hard going into this to give a distinct edge to one team. I completely agree with him there. I would still, just on like depth of experience and wealth of knowledge alone, give a slight edge to The Last Dance, and that's despite how much confidence I have in Joe Esports, because even recently I got to play with Wimpy in the dude, he's insane. We've got a lot of gunners on Joe Esports. In Prophecy Beastly, I know a lot of them as formidable players, and yet The Last Dance has got a lot of depth, and it's story depth. It's all the way back to beginning.
All right, well, let's get the action underway. We want to see some CL play here. So, Joe Esports versus The Last Dance. All right, let's get it rolling.
All right, thank you so much. We have to go through the maps as well, so that should be popping up on your screen in just a moment. As you can see, Joe Up's logo, by the way, hilarious. Can't obviously not going to say what that looks like, but it's very clear that it looks like something. Use your imagination. Anyway, first map is going to be is Clubhouse, right after the ban by Consulate on The Last Dance, who I don't think The Last Dance has a logo right now, which is why you see the American star from the US division. Oregon is going to be next up. So we are going to see two of the maps that we just witnessed earlier today in the Canada division, Michael. They're going to pop up yet again, and they are likely going to be played differently by these teams, though.
I feel like Lore would get a really good kick out of Joe Up's logo.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So here we go. We're going on to Clubhouse, Oregon, and then Cafe as our final map for this series. I'd say that's a solid lineup. I'm glad that Oregon has snuck its way once again into that map phase. So we get to see it on map number 2, but we're going to start out on Clubhouse, which is the map we just ended our last series in a different division on. So here we go. The Last Dance on defense, Joe on attack, and we'll begin the ban phase.
Any speculation as to what we're going to see in terms of operator bans here, Michael?
Well, probably something to do with hard destruction. It is Clubhouse after all, and there you go. Right off the cuff, it's Thatcher. Gets banned out early on. On the defensive side, we've been seeing a lot of Maestro bans, because then you eliminate the Echo and the Maestro, since Echo is permanent banned. We've been seeing a lot of Valkyrie bans. I expect Valkyrie, and that basically means you don't have to bring IQ. I've been hearing a lot of conversations about that being incredibly relevant, so we might see that on the defensive side. On the attacking side, it was all to do with hard destruction. It was the Maverick and the Thatcher, so this is going to be a very Kali-heavy map. You'll probably see Kali every single round. Oh boy.
That's a Kaid ban coming out. That's an interesting one. We see them from time to time, but they're not all that frequent. Last ban, it might be a Mira, but teams are actually not banning her out just yet. There's the Valk ban that you talked about as well, so teams don't need to run a IQ, or an IQ rather, as you had mentioned earlier on too.
Pretty solid ban phase, I'd say, overall. I mean, it's in line with what we've been seeing lately. I gotta say, and I know this is like, speaking out of turn for some people, but for me, I am so happy about the way the ban phases play out now that Echo isn't a thing anymore. It's immensely different than it used to be, and it's shifted so many things and opened up a lot of different avenues, not only more creative bans, but more creative ways of playing the game, and I find it incredibly interesting personally.
I totally agree. And, there is going to be a period of time where this honeymoon phase ends and Echo is gone, or Echo is back in play. He's no longer permabanned all the time, and we might sadly get back to a place where it's Mira and Echo being banned all the time. I am kind of fascinated how Mira's ban rate has plummeted, though. And she's not only being available, but teams just aren't bringing her. I don't think we saw her banned once earlier in the Canada division, and I mean now we're only through one map, but I mean she wasn't banned here either. Valk bans are skyrocketing as of late, and we've seen some flexibility with other operators being taken out too. Maestro bans, Kaid bans, Jaeger bans, etc. Teams are starting to experiment more, and I really do like to see it.
Agreed. It is definitely making things much more interesting. I like how Young is rocking the B3 there. For those of you who weren't around back in the day, B3 stands for Biggity Boop Bop, and that was an old team that Young used to be a part of. I even have Spades rocking the EG. I mean, there's a lot of varied team names on the side of The Last Dance, and I think that probably has to do with all these players' histories. I mean, you can go really far back with a lot of these guys to some pretty important teams throughout Siege's own history, and in the I guess zoomed out in the macro.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
So when we look at these attacking lineups here, there's a Capitao present, and lots of hard breach is going to be brought because of the Maverick ban. Do keep in mind that means that Thermite and Hibana will be used on pretty much every single bomb site. So with the way that we look at a church defense, your exothermic charges are likely going to go on maybe one of the hatches, but primarily on Dirt Tunnel and then opening up the bottom of church if teams get that far. We don't always see teams make it that far down. No time being wasted right now, though, as Wimpy is just sledging away up top at the very common spots to open up the positions where the defenders would sit. They sit there so that they can either throw out an Electric Claw, not a worry since Kaid is currently banned, or they can use an impact grenade to destroy the charges on the hatch. As you can see right now, that's what just happened. And not exactly the best coverage from Wimpy, as it looks like another impact is going to go off. This is a lot of X-Kairos that have been used, and it will completely deprive Rethinking from being able to put any of those to good use on the kitchen hatch.
He doesn't, yeah, he's out of hard destruction. In fact, the attack in its entirety is out of hard destruction. No exothermics, no X-Kairos. That drop will remain intact. And if this was a kitchen attack for the attack for Joe, then they're gonna have to change. They're gonna have to decide on something else entirely now. That does not bode well for the attack. We still have a minute though. They've got time. They can execute here. There's some work that is yet to be done. It still can be done. Those nades missing, though, from Wimpy Kid, that's not a great start.
No, still just a bit of damage done to Butters, but they've recalculated that the push is going to come from over towards the Arsenal side, West Arsenal side, as gunfire going out in spades, pardon the pun. There's Young with a kill and a second as his toxic canister. Is that a third? My goodness, he's softened them all up, and Brainbow gets in on it, and Spades finishes it. They all fall to their death, and the last dance will get the very first round on the very first map between these two teams.
Beautiful job there to Young. His immediate retaliation after seeing the smokes come down and after seeing the impact hole get opened up deep, deep inside of Arsenal. That is exactly what you need to see. The gas canisters went down, and he laid them out flat across the entire site, so there was nowhere safe for the attack to be. Meanwhile, his teammates are gunning, and Young extends out and still covers Kilo's retreat into the dirt tunnel to potentially salvage Kilo late in the round. Now, he didn't need to do that because he and the rest of his team shredded Joe as they entered, but it's the thought that counts. It's the little extra effort that matters in the end sometimes. So beautiful job there to The Last Dance for holding out on the bottom floor. I gotta say, though, a big part of that comes down to the fact that the kitchen drop down was intact throughout the round. The hard destruction was poorly used on the side of Joe, and that really did sway a lot of that outcome.
Oh, it is so hard to pull off and execute, especially if it's focused around that kitchen, because the defenders where they were playing by Arsenal and by that dirt tunnel, especially Young, can very easily be watched from that kitchen hatch being open. Not only are you capable of dropping and going for a default plant in the corner underneath the hatch, but it also allows you to just sit over top of the defenders and just harass them if they try to poke their head out of dirt tunnel, if they try to poke their head out of the back of that Arsenal bomb site. So it's really hard for people that don't play at a top level to understand how crucial and pivotal that spot is. And really, The Last Dance putting those impact grenades to such good use to take out all the X-Kairos and then also remove the exothermic charges from being a significant threat was absolutely huge. So a masterful defense from TLD so far.
All right, so trying to open up this wall. There is going to be some stop put up here. It's Rainbow trying his best to bandit trick. Not an easy thing to do on this spot. He's got the Zofia outside. There will likely be some lifelines chucked through that drone hole to try and disrupt the bandit tricking. And you've even got a Capitao in play. That's huge. Beastly could, at any moment, throw a firebolt down there and kill Brainbow. The wall will get opened up. It's the grenades that'll do it, though. They'll push him off. Rainbow also loses a good chunk of his HP, so he'll be a little bit more squishy in future engagements.
Attackers have located a bomb.
You see Beastly had the cupcake charm on his gun, by the way?
I did not notice that, actually.
Well, he did, so...
I mean, you're eating a cupcake.
I mean, I was eating a cupcake. I'm not eating it now. I don't eat on broadcast, Michael. You should know that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway. Immediate
cupcake.
focus being put on this garage. You can see drone work being done as the Thermite and the Sledge are now assembling towards the back of garage. And this is an interesting call to move Brainbow down below. He's very exposed to the doorway, and providing that the Wamaya Butters is still watching that spot, they're going to just put one of those bandit charges on the wall to prevent the exothermic charge from doing the damage that you'd expect it to. Butters has not been removed from the spot, and with him being Wamai, it means that the two fire bolts that would be launched from Beastly will be caught by the magnets. Butters gets the opening kill onto Wimpy, and down goes your Sledge. Trying to break through those magnets, there goes one stun. crossbow out, but oh, he gets absolutely annihilated by Butters up top inside a garage rafters. 50 seconds left, and Butters is on one right now.
Yeah, you could tell Butters was well aware of what he was up against. That Capitao setting up with the flashes. And well, there's a third for Butters. I mean, I can't even finish explaining how good his play is. He keeps killing people. He's aware that there's someone on the right side of the breach as well. He hears one below, but he will not win that gunfight. Rethinking just better in the heads up. Low HP there on Rethinking, though, and he's being flanked by a bandit, so not an ideal situation. He'll get downed by the SMG-11 despite the flash, and that'll be an easy kill for Young to clean up. Prophecy, the last attacker outside a breach. 10 seconds left, and really, he doesn't have a chance. Young knows where he is. Gas canister's coming up to delay the push in. He's blind. He's wafting in the smoke, and he'll die to C4 from below. Good holdout there from Brainbow, and a beautiful defense on Cash for the last dance.
The thing is that Brainbow is so crucial in that round, not only to stop the one garage wall, trying to actively bandit trick, taking damage, soaking it up, falling off, and continuously rotating. And you saw him go downstairs as well. He dropped through oil pit, and he just headed for the hills and to try and avoid greener pastures, as I guess we could say. To me, that wasn't so much an impressive defense from the last dance and more a couple missteps that were committed by the attackers on Joe that just couldn't get things working the way they needed to. The garage, great example of that. They knew there were magnets stacked up. They had to flush the Wamai out from the top. The bandit comes in, electrifies the wall. The thermite can't open up the one part of the garage, and the sledge looked to either be lobbing a grenade or taking a 50-50 onto Butters at the top and dies. The Capitao tries the same thing, also dies after he tried to clear out the magnet with a flash and then go for the fire arrow. Couldn't do it. Honestly, I don't know if the exothermic charge had opened up the back of the garage wall. It sounded like it had, but we didn't get a good enough view of it. Whether or not you put up somebody underneath it, which is a spot that Buck would usually play in, instead you could have put possibly a sledge there, thrown up the frag grenade, put some pressure on him, or even shot a firebolt from underneath, as there was nobody else really covering. Brainbow had gotten so far away from the bomb site at that point that he wasn't really somebody you had to worry about, and it took him a while to get back and close enough to being in any serious engagement. Honestly, it's a newer team in Joe. They made a couple roster moves. They were in Challenger League last season, if people remember, but they made a couple roster changes. They're obviously changing things up, and they're going up against a really tough foe in the last dance. So every team that's competing in Challenger League right now, Michael, is bound to commit mistakes. The big thing for Joe is to just not commit them too often.
So this is a gym defense here, and you can see that Spades is set up inside of server. He'll be forced off thanks to that exothermic charge. Assuming he reacts in time, he'll make it out just fine. And he's gone. Still the hold inside of Cash, though. TLD do not need to stress too much. They could just chill here. That's honestly a waste of some stuns there from Prophecy. Rethinking will get Butters, though, through the drone hole. Beautiful play there for Rethinking. And that actually might force TLD to fall off of their cash hold entirely. See, Spades has been marked out downstairs. He's going to have a trouble getting back to the site. He might need to maneuver downstairs all the way deep into the basement in order to make it back to the site and avoid getting cut off by one of these attackers. Looks like he's going to do just that. That is a really efficient clear of Cash, I got to say. And it all hinges on that kill under the bandit of Butters through the drone hole.
It's just a very calm round so far. If you're the last dance, you don't have to really extend too much. You just kind of wait. For some teams, they might get restless and over peak, but I feel like the composure here for them is going to be fine, even though they are down by 1. Butters has been crucial so far for this team, and I mean, he has the second most Pro League experience on this roster after Young, as Spades was a relatively new addition to EG before the end of the previous season. So for somebody like Butters, you're losing out on experience, and he's also quite a strong player, even though he did have a slow end to the season with Tempo's Storm at the tail end of Pro League Season 11.
Pressure on the balcony is not going to be alleviated whatsoever because of the server being cleared out earlier, and that's the key here. Rethinking will get his second kill onto Spades. We were just talking about him. He's gone now, and it's going to put a lot more pressure on Young to use his gas canisters well and to try and to, stop a push here or there to allow for his teammates to win some gunfights. There's the first one for TLD. Rainbow takes down Beastly. It's getting a little bit more hard for him to win gunfights, though, as he's put down to about 15 HP. He'll try to take a second one. Nade gets caught. Bullets landing, but the nade's actually going to down Rainbow because he runs into it. Not a great decision. Wimpy, though, does get down. Rethink is planting, and no one's stopping him. So in the post-plant now, it's a 2 versus 2. Low HP on Young, though, puts more pressure on Kilo. He has to win his gunfights, and Wimpy's getting picked up. This is terrible for the defense. A 3 versus 3, though, as it's an exchange of pickups. Only 28 seconds left. Nice kill there for Rainbow. He needed to get that. And a second, Marcus third for the round. Wimpy, the last one, who had been picked up earlier, needs to hold on for but 10 more seconds, but he won't be able to do it. The clutch from TLD, and Kilo will get that disable.
I know that we jokingly refer to people as the clutch minister, but I have to say, through my entire history and my entire run, and I don't know if you'd echo these thoughts as well, I don't think, barring the most recent season of Pro League, I don't think there's anybody that I would be picking over Young to be in a clutch for me. The sheer volume of 1vx's we have seen him pull off in the most astonishing and perplexing of fashions could be its own episode of professional Rainbow Six. It's nuts. And he does it again. I mean, obviously, it was Brainbow that really deserves credit for what we just saw, but Young, of course, being a crucial part of that, likely calling alongside Brainbow, allowing them to make that happen. That was just something else. And honestly, Joe barnstorm into the site. They take up first kill. They trade off on a second kill, but still have the advantage. And as teams trade down, it's the team that gets the first kill that's always in the advantage in that position, which obviously favors Joe. But then you see the last dance, they don't really sweat it all that much. They stay really calm. Brainbow catches them as Joe scrambles in the post plant, as we see so many teams do. They get the diffuser down and then they transfer over to the post plant to assume the position, hold angles, make sure that they're watching the diffuser. They have re-entries to the bomb site covered, and Brainbow takes full advantage of that after he'd been downed by that grenade on the main stairs, which was hilarious to watch. And honestly, the last dance just with ice in their veins. Every single round so far, ice in their veins. It's the closest we've come to seeing Joe take a round off them, and still close doesn't really matter in this particular instance.
Yep. It's so far been just TLD inching it out in the end, most of these rounds. And yeah, I like what you mentioned about in the middle of those transitions. That's where Brainbow really came alive in that last round. I wholeheartedly agree. Young definitely played a huge part in that as well. Not only for his ability to get that last kill, but also his delay factor with the smokes. I talked about it in the when it was happening. Was you needed to use those gas canisters to delay adequately. Otherwise, there was no chance for the defense because of the man disadvantage. Speaking of man disadvantage, Spades is the first casualty as he attempts to get a little bit edgy and vault out of New Blue. He'll lose his life to Prophecy, who lost half of his life in turn.
I don't know. I think that's a risky gamble for Spades to take. Obviously, you don't want to be down numbers on this bomb site, but we've seen teams hold down the fort in 2v4s, 2v5s, etc. on this bomb site because the attackers have to come in through very predictable avenues, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Very similar to that top floor of the old Oregon bomb site is that you can play off of it, and even if you have even if you're trailing in numbers, you still are in relatively good shape. And frankly, it was Young who cleaned up with 3 kills on the previous attempt for the attackers to take this bomb site. So yeah, I wouldn't discredit them. I understand the gamble that Spades took. I still wouldn't have liked to have seen anybody on my team give up their life that early on if you're him. The one most crucial aspect of the defense last time was stopping the hard destruction from going off above Prophecy, as that hard destruction is going off, is making his mark towards Church. There's plenty of time, and I like this. I like that Joe have realized that they have the advantage, they can push that advantage, and they're wasting no time to take up as much map control as possible.
It's going to be another of the same kind of attack here from Joe. This time, I think they do have the drop-down open, though, so that's crucial. They can use that to leverage control of Deep Arsenal, and they have already done that. They've got the control they need. They just need to be wary of Brainbow and Young, who are in good positions to stop this push. Young with his 2 gas canisters. Brainbow, who is now dead. So, again, more pressure on Young. And we see this happen a couple times. He's going to try and deny this plant with the gas canister. It'll go out. It'll go too far, but Kilo gets the kill with the impact, so plant denied for now. Young is dead, though, as he tried to overextend himself and failed, and it's all on Kilo, who will die to Wimpy Kid. An easy push for him inside of Arsenal. The very first round for Joe, and it's on a basement attack.
How much of that round was lost at the beginning? That's the question that I want an answer to. And Spades went down, and then you lost was it the Rook as well early on, leaving it into a 3v5. Not ideal circumstances. And I did point out that we have seen teams be able to come back despite being at a 2vx, a 3vx, even a 1vx on that bomb site. But it usually requires an awful lot of luck and requires your opponents to make a ton of mistakes. And that round, I didn't really see that many mistakes from Joe, to be frank. They got the opening pick on Spades. The Zofia Prophecy realized that that's somebody that is going to be playing off site that is now absent when you do go for the push. There's 4 players remaining. You factor that they're on the bomb site. Where are they going to be? One is probably going to be playing inside of blue. One's going to be playing in church behind the bar. The other will likely have Young playing in dirt, and then the 4th will be in the back of the Arsenal bomb site. You talked about it in the Canadian division game, in the Canada division game, where on these maps, on these bomb sites, these teams know where the default locations of most of the defenders are because there aren't that many places that you can comfortably play off of. When you have players on this Joe roster that have been around as long as some of them have been, I'm particularly looking at Beastly, you know where these players are going to be, and you can take full advantage of the fact that you have that advantage. And the Zofia comes down the main stairs, hits the back of the Arsenal wall, it further pushes the defenders back. And at that point, when the hatch was opened up from the upside down rappel of the Hibana, which was played so much better than the last time we saw the attackers try to take the kitchen hatch, the mistakes that had been made were fixed, and the gunfights went in favor and broke in favor of Joe.
Now, we saw this cash defense go really decisively in the favor of TLD. However, there are a couple reasons why, and a lot of them come down to chance. Not necessarily luck, but chance. For example, Butters play inside of Garage. He managed to get 3 kills from that position on angles that really Joe shouldn't have been giving up. Rainbow, he stayed alive barely, managed to effect great work on the round, and well, he's going to be put down to half HP, so not as bad as last time, but still, relying on him doing that same work is not necessarily a guaranteed result. So this is definitely still a round that Joe could take and TLD could falter on. That's a nice cutoff there, actually, from, I believe, Wimpy. Yeah, and he'll do 50 or just about damage to Spades, so that's a good result, even if not a kill.
Once again, the early damage that's done can matter so much in the tail end of this matchup, and well, Spades and Brainbow are now in positions where 1 to 2 bullets less will kill them, and that's exactly where you don't want to be if you're an attacker trying to take an engagement here. You quick peek around the corner, you absorb 2 shots to the body, well, now you're dead. Then, you know, before where you'd probably still be upright. But I mean, at least the good news is for both Brainbow and Spades is that they don't really have a lot of utility that won't persist. All of it's probably down at this point. We can see it. The ADSs and the bandit batteries are totally gone. There's a C4 from Brainbow though, so some damage that can be done on his end. Meanwhile, the push that's coming out from the attackers is inside of construction and it's relatively unabated. That impact missing, but actually looks like the second time it will connect. So no exothermic charge will go off on that construction wall as Clix is entirely out of that hard destruction.
There is an X-Gyros, though, and that's where he's thinking using them on the wall right now. He'll use 2 sets as an exchange ensues. Prophecy for Spades, or rather, Prophecy gets Spades, and then also Kilo is felled. And it's just this constant back and forth. Not Kilo, pardon me, but Wimpy. He is eliminated by Kilo. Now, it's just a little bit of a lull in the action. There's not a lot of time left. 20 seconds, and the attack needs to start picking things up, and Kilo gets his 3rd kill. That's huge. He cannot be stopped inside of server, it seems. But there's no A site control, and that's going to allow for an attempted plant by Clix. C4 from below misses. Clix gets off the plant, peeks into red, and takes down Kilo, the man on a tear. It's all on Brainbow and Butters now. Butters picks up his. Will Brainbow? It doesn't look like it, but it doesn't matter. The last dance will win the round on time. A beautiful job holding out and staying alive when it mattered most.
And we're going to get a rehost, it looks like, due to the fact that Young dropped out of the game. I don't know if he can reconnect or not, but the admins have confirmed it, so you'll bring it back to us. You'll see our wonderful, beautiful faces. Everybody say hello.
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 So yeah, I guess we're just going to give him some time to reconnect. It was a round that went the way of TLDs, so I imagine that's not really going to matter too much in the overall round count. Probably pick it right back up from where we left off 4-1.
Yeah, honestly, what is your first assessment at seeing these teams play at this level? Because we didn't get any footage from last week with The Last Dance or Joe Esports, or Joe Up as they're calling themselves in their logo. What's your first take on these two squads?
For TLD, I'd say there's a lot of really smart utility play. That's probably the thing I'm picking up on the most. There's a little bit of overzealousness I'm noticing. For example, we saw from Spades as he vaulted out for New Blue. I think that he probably didn't need to do that necessarily. He's trying to apply some pressure and keep his opponents off Keter, keep them like unfocused and not really zoned into the match. And to an extent, he accomplishes that even if he's not getting kills. But the key to the success of TLD so far for me is not necessarily just the fact that they're on defense, which is an advantage on Clubhouse, but also much more importantly, their adept utility usage. The gas canisters from Young, I've said it for a long time and I'll repeat it now. Young is one of the best smokes out there. He's overshadowed by people like Bosco, for example, but he is one of those T1 smokes. He is counted among the greats, and he is really displaying that here in this matchup. The C4 placement's been stellar. The just overall denial, a delay factor from TLD has been really good. And that's just my thoughts on TLD, but I've been rambling for long enough, so I don't want to get too lost in Joe, because there's a lot to say there too.
I mean, that's exactly what I wanted, though. I wanted you to go off like this, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on these two teams, because, I mean, it's really hard to break down and do a synopsis on a match when we're only 5 rounds in, especially on a map like Clubhouse that does tend to have quite a rhythm to it. You know, there's a couple different ways that you can play the bomb sites on Clubhouse, but they all tend to be kind of the same as how other teams do it. You might have a variation here or there in your operators, but I mean, unless you totally throw out the script, you're going to see a lot of similarities between these teams. And I have no doubt that when we see it swap and Joe goes on to defense, that we're going to see the same thing trotted out on if you're defending downstairs, you're either going to be sitting most people in sight with Wamai and Jaeger in play and then some kind of anti-plant utility, be it a smoke, be it a maestro, Echo if he's available, Mirror, etc., what have you. Or you're going to be roaming upstairs, as we've seen teams make work with a Vigil, with a Castle, with a Mozzie, with a Mute, etc. If you're attacking CCTV cache, you're going to have a Kaid and you're going to have a Bandit available. In this particular instance, Kaid is banned, so you're not going to be seeing him on this matchup, which was an interesting ban, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like I said, there's interesting variety, but not that much variety. So what we've seen so far from The Last Dance on defense has been pretty ordinary, and they've just kind of stuck to exactly what works. And so far, through 5 rounds, they're up 4-1. It's obviously worked. Yeah,
they're doing good. And of course, as mentioned, the defense does factor into that. This is a defender-sided map historically. So that is going to be that's going to be a component of the result here, but not the entirety of it, of course. And similar to your thoughts, I think that when we see the side swap, we're going to see a little bit of a shift in gears here. To talk briefly about Joe, I think that their tenacity has been admirable throughout this match. Their understanding of what utility needs to be used and where is also pretty impressive. We don't always see that. Like earlier today, there was a little bit of an odd match we had. People seemed uncertain of what they were trying to accomplish, and what was necessary to get that done. I think Joe has full understanding of those tools. Unfortunately for them, they haven't been used perfectly yet. For example, a good example is probably when Butters is playing in Garage on the catwalk, and the Capitao is trying to firebolt him. It's a Wamai, so it's not going to be easy to do, but it's beside the point, because what Butters did to counter that was to peek wide, and you could tell that the Capitao just wasn't prepared for that. So fixing up little things like that are what Joe, I think, needs to do in order to be effective consistently on attack. But I wouldn't say they're not going to do that. I'd say that they're certainly going to accomplish that eventually, whether it's in the middle of this match or later down down the line in a different match is beside the point. Joe has a lot of potential, and they're clearly displaying that here today.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was a team that you heard a couple of these players' names talked about. You know, last season in Challenger League, I heard an awful lot about Wimpy, a ton about Wimpy, actually. And frankly, I didn't really know who he was at the time because for us, we don't exactly have our finger on the pulse of the amateur scene as much as a lot of others do. Our focus primarily at the time stood on Pro League. And while we would keep an eye on the AM scene when it was time for relegations and time to dive into the various teams. And you know, for me, Joe flew under the radar, and I think for a lot of people, you know, you look at this lineup and you see that there's tons of potential. But I mean, it's hard when you're kind of, you know, crashing against the shores of The Last Dance, and it's that The Last Dance is such a formidable team. You know, that Beast Coast roster struck me as a team that was better than a very fast 2-0 loss to The Last Dance. But The Last Dance made them kind of look like chumps. You know, and when you look at the state of US Challenger League right now, a lot of people will talk about PogChamp because of the way that they dominated Challenger League last season. They've got a ton of former pros on that team, and everybody knows who almost all those players are. There's really no unknown quantities on it. But you can very easily say the same thing about The Last Dance, and you know, well, we can sing the praises of Joe and how they've played, and I think they absolutely deserve credit for how they've played so far. Given the fact that it is, you know, 4-1 for defenders on Clubhouse, The Last Dance has looked like the team that lives up to the billing that people have given it. And I mean, they've earned this reputation of being a strong team, even though this is only the second play day. And I think, honestly, a lot of it just comes from the fact that, just like PogChamp, these are known quantities. These are players that have been around a while. People know who they are. They've been, you know, some of them fan favorites, like Young, for example. I know Butters has a huge following as well through his own Twitch streams. So it's a popular team, but it's also one that has earned the success and earned the reputation that they've gotten so far.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that sentiment. And you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to continue to play out through the whole season of Challenger League, because you know, this is really just the first glimpse we're getting of these squads. We do have everyone in the lobby though. We've got everyone prepared, so we should be able to pick this up from where we left off. 4-1, favor of The Last Dance, getting close to that second half. We're loading into Clubhouse, and we will give you all the action, like I said, from where we left off. So we're back into it. Thank you for your patience. Now, 4-1 is pretty solid, but again, defense, that's a big factor here. It'll be Church for the next defense here, or the last defense, I should say. And this is a site that has failed TLD before, but I don't know. I think it's off of correctable mistakes.
That was the one where Spades died early. Things went sideways, and then they also lost the Rook as well of Butters really early. Obviously, Spades and Butters are going to be two of your flashier players. Losing them hurts a lot. You know, just as losing Prophecy and Wimpy is going to hurt on Joe's side of things. So you look to those two players to be, you know, your roamers on defense, your fraggers on attack. And with it, I mean, obviously you're setting yourself up in a bad position, but I will say now for, like, I think the fourth time, when you are defending downstairs, it is not the end of the world if you are at a 3v4 or a 4v5, especially if your opponents are utility starved, and especially double up on that one if the clock is really low, because then they have to just make mistakes as they try to get a plant down, and they obviously don't have the luxury of time. I would imagine that what we're going to see out of The Last Dance here is they're probably going to play a little bit tighter to the bomb site. They're not going to give up any chance of being punished by Joe, and I think Joe is going to be able to waltz on in after droning things out and realize that they have ample time to be able to pull off and execute.
Lots of self-destruction coming out in the setup here. The prelude to the actual action of the round. Obviously, you could expect a lot of impact tricking to be going on in this round. You got 2 sets of impact set up to do just that. Moto drop gets opened up, though, without a fuss. Nice and easy. I wonder if they're going to be going for a church take. I mean, no, they're not. They've used 2 of their exothermic charges, so that really eliminates that thought. Probably going to be something similar to what we saw last couple times the attack tried to hit this site.
A bomb has been located.
Right now, it's just a focus on the kitchen drop down. The upside down repel rather, bleh, is really dangerous for rethinking, as he could be challenged directly through these holes. You can see Kilo trying to do just that. He can hear the repel, and he's just keen for that Habana. You can smell the blood in the water. It all comes down to whether or not Rethinkin peeks it. But oh no, look at that. Kilo gets off the angle. That's actually a big risk for him, as he incurs a lot of damage on that transition trying to get back onto the angle, and he'll die to Wimpy Kid. He would have died to Wimpy Kid's nade. It doesn't matter. Either way, he's dead, and the drop is open.
That's a huge pick as well. Comes with 90 seconds through the round, which means that 90 seconds are left to go. You best hope that those evil eyes are in the correct position, because they can't be rotated or touched upon yet again now that it's... the operator is dead, and you can see him lying inside of Arsenal. Now, last time, we saw a very simple push from Joe. They've actually done it 2 rounds prior when they attacked this bomb site, which is they hit that most western panel that's referred to as pulse spot. It was with the Zofia before, but now Prophecy is going to be running the Ash. So you can still do that, and, well, breaching round available if need be. But you have to evade a nitro cell. There's the wall that'll be the target for Ash. She's very close to being able to break into Moto, shotgun out, and this will be a fight that apparently The Last Dance is eager to take, but it doesn't work out, at least so far, with Rethinking and Prophecy finding 2 kills. Young punished inside a dirt tunnel as the plant goes down. Rethinking's been downed. Beastly gets a kill of his own, and this is basically over at this point. There's no way Young's going to be able to do anything. So he's probably just going to go and try to retake through kitchen. But he's going to be detected for but a second, and Beastly is ready and lined up. There's the second kill for the Capital. Flawless round from Joe, and they will take this 6th and final attack. Advantage still in favor of The Last Dance. They're up 4-2, but these teams will swap sides.
Yeah, there's no real play there for Young, and a 4-2 is all right for the defense. That's in line with your expectations there. I would imagine that we're going to see a similar kind of score line now for Joe, as we switch on to the second half. Now, it'll be bottom 4 defense first for Joe. This was the site that was actually, well, kind of tragic for The Last Dance, as this is, you know, they were, for some reason, unable to hold this one out twice. Typically, it's your primary bomb site, too, or for some teams, it's primary or secondary, and yet not working out well for TLD. I'm imagining that Joe is going to have a very different setup, though, and I'm also imagining that TLD is going to have a very different attack. That kitchen focus is kind of... I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do when attacking this floor, right? You can try and pinch between Moto Blue, and you can open up the church wall. You could try and pinch between Blue and Dirt Tunnel, and then try to just rush on into the site through that. You don't even necessarily have to have the kitchen drop down open to do that. It's easier, certainly, but you don't have to. You can try and open up the kitchen drop down, and then just come from the main stairs and the drop down, and that's exactly what Joe did, and that is a very minimalistic approach to attacking the bottom floor. I'd say that it utilizes less angles and less avenues than you could easily have access to as an attacking team, and I think it just is... I think it's focusing on, instead of spreading yourself out and having control over more angles, it's focused on having potency on the angles that you choose, or the avenues that you choose to push into. And that's, well, it worked out twice for Joe, so props to them for that. Now, we'll see how exactly TLD decide to attack, but Joe's defense, at the very least, already proving different. They are setting up for an off-site roam.
Prophecy has not decided to abandon his... Oh, there he goes. Okay, well, I'm just going to stop talking in that case. He was playing over by the bar, just looking towards the double doors that were opened up, and he's just going to fall a little farther back towards the top of the stairs and wait. There's a castle barricade on the bathroom as well, so he only needs to really worry about one avenue that he can get pushed from. But Butters isn't too far off. He'll drone himself in, and against a Vigil, this is not always an ideal situation. Prophecy's going to let the drone go by and then completely miss it and fall back. Butters knows this, so he can begin to get a bit more hasty with his push towards the main stairs. He has no drones, though, left, so he's not going to get droned in by anybody.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
interestingly, it shows that both of Butters' drones are still in play, but they're not.
It still doesn't work, man. I mean, it's better than nothing, though. I'm still grateful that we have it at all. Look at this vault in here from the Habana. That's Kilo. He'll incur some damage on that. speaking of, lots of it actually, as Spades gets 2 big kills for himself. And yeah, he's down to low HP, but still, the frags are there. And they are going to put The Last Dance in control.
That was the opening that they needed with still about a minute to go. This is a 3v5 situation that The Last Dance found themselves in when they were on defense. See if they can. So we'll see if they can enact the same amount of pain. But the difference is that you look at Spades and Kylo, and they are, or Kilo, and they are not in the greatest of shape as individual players right now.
No.
Still work being done above as Butters is going to inhabit the role that Wimpy was on, which is just to sledge away as they now free the Hibana from the bathroom. And if you look at the ex-Kairos that are there, you know, Kilo's still able to get them down and continue to open up some of these hatches. 30 seconds left, and you still have just the first floor in control. Finally, we see The Last Dance pushing downstairs. That's Butters posted up at the main door. One spotted inside of Church, as there goes the drone. A beautiful shot from Prophecy onto Brainbow, and still an advantage, though, for The Last Dance. Beastly gets in on this one. The Vigil's back is turned, and that's an easy kill for Butters as he punishes Prophecy's positioning.
Oh.
Ash drops as well, and Young can just walk right into the bomb site. Around the bomb chassis, damage being done. Outdueling Beastly, and it's Clicks now in a 1v3 with the diffuser in the hands of Butters. Very capable hands. All that artillery being fired from Arsenal towards the jukebox, but the record will skip and Young will be credited with that kill. 5-2 now in favor of The Last Dance.
Beautiful entry there from Young and TLD. I love the on-the-fly decision-making. Instead of committing to the Arsenal push, as it looked like they were trying to do, looked like they were about to do, they sidestepped their opponent and went in through Moto door, taking the control that was offered by the, let's be honest, poor positioning of Vigil. And after they took down that Vigil, they're like, okay, wait. We could push Moto. We could take Church. We can just plant in there nice and safe and snug. We don't need to risk contesting the Maestro inside of Arsenal. Great decision-making process there from TLD. Whoever made that shot call really on top of the ball. I imagine it probably was Young, as he was the one spearheading the execution into the site. Whatever the case, though, oh man, I said it again. That round in the bag will move on to a cash defense for Joe. They're not going to try the bottom floor again. They're going to move on. I'm going to say, all right, that's enough. We'll rethink it later. And then, interestingly, the bottom floor now has proven to be a bad spot for both teams on defense, which is just counterintuitive.
Today has been a day of not trying to guess or predict based upon past precedent. So
Certainly has.
here we are in, like I said, an opposite day where things just don't quite work out the way that we anticipate.
Well, I mean, you know, TLD is winning so far, but if opposite day perseveres, then they'll start losing right about now.
This is Joe's map, by the way, for those that didn't see the map bands, or at least don't remember exactly.
Opposite day.
The Last Dance taking the very first round of their attack is a really good sign, because if you stick to where we usually see teams do, The Last Dance only needs to win one more round, and they are at expectation level, which is that defense wins 4, attackers win 2. If you win this bomb site as The Last Dance, barring an incredible comeback from Joe, you should be in position to clean out the rest of this map, or to close out the rest of this map. So, obviously, there's a lot that hinges on this attack in particular, and, well, it's only about 50 seconds in, and that CCTV wall has been opened up. Have to be careful of the mute jammer, as you can also see the one door was closed to try and prevent any kind of Zofia explosion from knocking you off of the wall. Wimpy is playing close up to the door and close up to the breach hole as well. He falls back. Young is down below, and he can sprint up those red stairs, providing there's no barbed wire, which there likely will be. Wimpy tosses out a C4, and it completely misses, but my oh my, that is a dangerous gamble, because you could have very easily been punished.
Didn't do any damage, as he said. That's unfortunate. And yeah, it was a gamble. More importantly, they're not going to have that C4 for denial on the plant when it comes out eventually. And since we're in a 5v5 at the half round mark, I mean, that could have been a much more useful piece of utility. At least there is still 2 C4s on the defense, and they do have Evil Eyes in play. So as long as Rethinking doesn't die, and those C4s persevere, then, you know, there's still a lot of potential for that denial. Kilo will get downed. Rethinking full blind will get that kill. Wimpy also gets young, but at least Rethinking dies inside of the garage. Not looking great here for TLD, but it might get a little better as Mozzie is exposed and dies by exposing himself again. Butters with 2 kills there, 2 relatively easy kills that presented themselves to him quite readily. Well, 3v3. Only 30 seconds left, though. A nice shot from Wimpy. We talked about how nuts he was, and there's proof. Rainbow goes down. The pre-fire from Spades actually gives him away, and it's the 3rd for Wimpy, leaving just Butters. He's got to find his 3 now with only 20 seconds. At least he's got Diffuser. That'll make it a little bit easier, but as he walks towards the 3-way crossfire, it's not looking good. A final kill there, and it goes to Beastly. Joe, a solid defense there.
I cannot get over that kill from Wimpy. That is just that he just rocked him.
Yeah, I mean,
good lord.
I had a chance to actually play some ranked with Wimpy, and I was like, I think it was like 2-3 days ago, and I was just like blown away with some of the shots he was hitting. Man, he's pretty nuts.
He's a talented player, and honestly, like one of the coolest things about having Challenger League on this channel is that we get to see rising stars rise in front of our eyes. You know, you look at a lot of players that are in this match. We talked about how some of them have been around for ages. But is this the best look that we've seen a player like Clicks get? Is this the best look that we've seen a player like Kilo get? Is this the best look that we've seen a player like Brainbow get? You know, like Wimpy has gotten. Yeah, they've been broadcasted on Challenger League, but not to this size audience and not at this level of expectation. So it's nice to see that. The future of Rainbow Six is quite bright, and despite the fact that in the past I have been quite vocal and outspoken about what I think are issues with the playstyle of Tier 2 Rainbow Six, particularly in North America, I think that certain teams have made huge strides towards adapting their playstyle to the global meta, and I think that they are better for it, and I think North America, most importantly, is better for it as well.
Certainly. I think that it's come a long way, that's for sure. And I think... What?
I was just going to say, you think back to Challenger League. Season 7 of NA Challenger League, you've got basically 2 teams, maybe 3 teams that are actually good. Half the teams gave up halfway through the season because they know they're not going to finish in the top.
Yeah, I like the new system, first of all. I think it encourages more long-term competition. I mean, we could say that about Challenger League. We'd also say that about our main divisions. Just in general, the format across the board, you're getting less and less. Well, you're gonna get less and less when we're coming to closer to the end of that whole like giving up sort of thing that we did see. Like, we have to admit, in old formats, we did see a lot of teams just say, yeah, we can't get the result we want, so we're just gonna, you know, stop playing, just start, I don't know, phoning it in. And it was uncomfortable. It was not fun to watch. And I think that what we're seeing right now is a totally separate kind of competition. Speaking of that competition, Spades is trying to corner Prophecy, and he's going to get away. Oh, no. Not like that.
No, there you go.
Okay.
Young was there. The opening pick that could possibly propel TLD to match point happens. That was such a bad stroke of luck. Spades throwing every single thing he could at him, and it just doesn't work out the way that they wanted.
That was
until
really
Young
bad.
steps in.
Oh, speaking of Young, he's stepping down now as he's been eliminated by Rethinking. Butters gets the refrag though, so at least there's that. What'd you say?
You got the control over towards Cash and CCTV. It's a gym master defense. Don't be fooled by the setup that you see. And it's still by 1 an advantage that favors the Last Dance. But there is tons of time left for both of these teams. You've still got 2 C4s and you've still got Nalda in play. This is far from over. Don't go counting your chickens before they hatch.
This is a solid array for the defense. I mean, the way that they're set up, they've got the control. They don't need to stress. The attack, on the other hand, they've got a lot of work they still need to do. A lot of angles that they need to chip away at to get control of before they can push the site. The key is going to be Clicks inside of Office. He is the most immediate problem. And with his shotgun, it should be easy for him to hold here. But look at Butters. He comes up behind one, sees the other, but doesn't shoot him. It doesn't matter, though, as it's a 1v4 now all of a sudden. make that a 1v3. LMG working wonders here, and Butters is going to get a team kill, but at least he'll shut down Wimpy. And there you go, TLD taking a round. And it was a messy one, but TLD still won it. So
Wimpy, you can't just win a 1v4. Haha, Alda goes brrrr.
You almost got it, too. That's the crazy thing.
Almost. It was very close. It was very, very close. That's match point for The Last Dance, by the way. Despite Wimpy's best efforts, he wasn't credited with one of those kills. You pointed out it was a team kill, but he came pretty close. And honestly, I have learned to never, ever sell Maestro short. Not with the things that we've seen, and especially for whatever reason on this map. I feel like half the Maestro clutches we see happened on either Bank, and the other half happened on Clubhouse. I don't know why. It just tends to, this is the place.
I mean, I don't know if it's any particular map to my recollection, but I mean, I can believe you. So weird things in Siege happen like that sometimes. It's strange. Actually on a personal note, there's like this weird sensation for me. Sometimes when I find myself in certain positions on certain maps, I'm like, no matter what, it's going through my head that like, this is my zone, you know, and like I can win here for some reason. And I don't even know why. There's no explanation for it. It just sometimes people are comfortable in places, and sometimes operators perform better in places. I mean, there's a logic to it, right? Like, especially with the SAS operators, for example, the Shotgun SMG-11 combo. If you ever put those guys in a position where the engagement distance is really close no matter what, then they are going to excel there, just as operators. So there's certainly, like, good reasoning there, but it's just a weird sensation within Siege.
5 seconds left before.
Yeah. I always get really hyped up, and I think most people do, for the smoke mute clutches. It tends to happen more with smoke than mute, because I think mute isn't usually as deep inside of the site. Usually if a nitro cell, mutes might take more chances. Smoke is obviously a very prized commodity, so you're going to want to keep him around as long as possible. But man, some of the smoke clutches we've seen, Sexy Cake jumps to mind, Young jumps to mind. You know, we've seen absolute madness. Bosco's a great one. Hungry's another one.
Yeah.
There's something about the way that a good smoke player is capable of playing that just, it excites me in untold ways.
I think a big part about what makes a good smoke player is the patience.
Yep.
I think that's got to be the most prevalent quality of good smoke players. But let's not get too deep down that rabbit hole, I suppose. Let's focus in on this, because this is actually quite interesting. 1 minute and TLD have control of the top 2 floors. They've established there's no roamers, and they're focused on the execution of the site. Now let's just be sure that there are no roamers. You can see 3, 4, 1 behind the bomb there. That's Beastly, and then there's the 5th clicks inside of Dirt Tunnel. So it is well established. Only, well, I guess you could say 1 roamer in the Dirt Tunnel, but I don't know if you really count that.
That is...
Oh, no.
Awful timing.
And in case you're wondering, we're too deep in the round for a rehost.
Yeah,
so.
and that's the Maestro. The Evil Eyes are basically negated now, and there they go. You're not going to have the Alda to do any work. That's also Dirt Tunnel. Clicks is back, but it doesn't really do anything. That's a heartbreaker for Joe.
I mean, they could still maybe make this happen. It just doesn't seem very likely. That's 1 free pick for TLD, and they didn't even have to do anything for it.
And a huge utility pick as well. Impact grenades, as well as, like I said, those Evil Eye cams and the Alda off the board. Drones are parked inside of sight, though, as we now look towards the closing moments of this round, and that's information that will be really handy when you do go for an execute of some kind. But Rethinking, at least, will equalize. So they lost clicks, but then Brainbow goes down. Not the spot that you want to find yourself in. There goes a Magnet, too, so... deep in the back of Arsenal, playing just actually by dummies, is Rethinking, and he can watch towards blue as well. This is danger territory right now for The Last Dance, as they may be stalling out.
Yeah, it certainly seems like they're stalling out, as they haven't really accomplished anything in the last few seconds. Well, last few set of seconds. Here come the stuns over towards Box. Those are going to get the Wamai gadgets, the magnets. Long angle from Beastly. This is integral. This will certainly result in the win for Joe if somebody peeks into him and isn't ready to take this fight. And I doubt anyone will be. Here comes the drop. Oh no! Beastly misses! Kilo's better! That's huge! That's site control and the planter in Cubby. He's going to be able to start that plant. And the cross is there, but it's not going to cover. Butter's failure there on that part. 1 down, but it's a win in the end for Joe, as they just barely managed to hang on through a ballsy rush through the main hallway.
And think about that. You avenge the fact that you've lost your teammate, and you still end up winning it. That was something where I think pressure gets to you if you're The Last Dance, because you have a 4v5, and you don't need to overthink too much. We talked about the stall potential. We talked about that stall factor. It certainly seemed like the thought process for the Last Dance was when they got down to the bottom of main stairs, they assessed the wall to their left and had an Ash's grenade launcher in hand. And it looked like what they wanted to do was break open that wall and rush right in. But the problem was that they didn't have coverage of the back of Arsenal. And the dock playing by the bomb in church meant that they could swing the moment that Ash charge went off. So you have to be careful about how you push towards the site. I think the idea was send somebody through blue, take kitchen hatch with 2 separate players and keep somebody at the bottom of main stairs, then have the 5th go wherever they want to try to stack up and take maybe just as added insurance or to target a weakness or a blind spot from the defense. But there were 2 very early kills. The kill that came out onto Brainbow, obviously not where you want that thermite to be. And then that's when everything stalled out for the Last Dance. Maybe that was the crucial kill that was needed. I'm not entirely sure. It certainly seemed like that caused the Last Dance's push to completely fizzle. And with it, they just lost a ton of gunfights. As you pointed out, Beastly lost that fight. I don't know how he did. But if he wins that gunfight, that round is over way faster than what we ended up seeing. Anywho. 11th round, still match point for the Last Dance. They could still put this one away, and it's going to be an upstairs bomb site and cache CCTV.
Well, that's an early hard destruction there, and Clicks will shut it down with an impact, it seems. I think for a while, everybody believed that that impact trick had just been done away with because we knew the other one on the other side of the map was. And then someone somewhere along the line realized, oh, it still works. Interesting. And people have been doing it ever since. Yeah,
I mean, we were confused, right?
Yeah, I was confused. I feel like, again, that expectation of, oh, they did the same thing there as they did on the other side of the map really kind of confused everybody. Because they didn't. I don't know. Anyway, walls, I think, open. That's the main server wall and the garage wall. Both the angles established for the Last Dance, and that's really good control. That'll give them an angle onto the server. It'll also allow them to pressure the player in garage a whole lot more than they would have been able to otherwise. That's rethinking.
I wanted to try to make a pun off of rethinking nade, but I haven't been able to find one just yet, so oh no. Butters, don't blow yourself up like that, man.
Speaking of nades, that was not a great one.
That was a rethink and nade style of deal. You know, that was where you got to rethink it.
It kind of works, Parker.
For sure, yeah. Well, clumsily at it. Wimpy! He's been real good on defense so far. Goodbye to Spades. Advantage and opening pick in favor of Joe, starting things off. And the Zofia Gon, the Swiss Army knife of operators who are so impactful on these bomb sites.
Yeah, you're also going to lose a lot of HP on Brainbow, and the aggression from Joe has been completely unfaltering. I mean, we haven't really seen any stop action coming out here from TLD. They haven't done a lot of work to pressure the defense so far. And you were talking about stalling out in the last round. It seems like it might be happening again here, but at least there's Young to get rethinking inside of Garage. Young's going to do the thinking for him and getting that control. And they should be able to use Garage now as a platform to attack onto the site.
I think that there's somebody playing close by the door through this breach as well. Top of red, there's 2 players from the defense that are stacked up, both the Maestro as well as the Mute, and Wimpy is primed and ready to greet anybody who walks through. SMG-11 in hand and fully stocked with ammunition as well. But he'll get flashed and looking away. A second kill from Young. That flash was just designed for cover. Young at the stairs will try to push up onto Wimpy. There's one from Kilo. Butters in on it, and it's all over. Unless Beastly can somehow manage to clutch this. And the answer is no. That's a good half in the chat. The Last Dance will take the first map, and most importantly, Joe's map, 7-4.
Man, I feel kind of bad there for Wimpy because you could see his potential to do work from his position, but every time he tried to commit to a peek or a play, he had to deal with something else somewhere else, and it changed up his whole dynamic constantly. But let's go ahead and move on from that, and we'll, I guess, do the analyst desk, but with 3 people instead of 2, as we bring Jackie back in.
Hi, gentlemen. That was a strong win from TLD and Kicks.
Jeez,
I remember you
again.
said that. Oh,
Once again, we cannot hear you, Jackie. I think the stream can probably hear her, but we can't hear her.
Yeah, the stream can hear me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Thank you everyone for dealing with the technical difficulties. I apologize for that. So I was just saying that Kix, you were talking about TLD and you said that they had smart utility play. They obviously have experienced former pro players. It looked like strong coordinated play, in my opinion, from them to secure that win. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to what I was talking about and what you've just brought up, which is the utility play from TLD, their ability to control the flow of the game by controlling who's allowed to go where, whether that be on attack or defense. With their nades on attack, their stuns on attack. Parker mentioned when it was happening that last round, for example, that stun that went into the hallway was beautiful. It allowed for the cross towards default plant spot. Then, the gas canisters from Young on the first half when they were on defense were beautiful. All that played such a huge factor.
And Intero, Joe Esports, they suffered some tech difficulties. It seemed to be like they were playing a little far out, losing map control and gunfights. What do you think contributed to them losing the most?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of that? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What do you think contributed to them losing the most? To me, it appeared like they were losing map control and gunfights. They seemed to be playing a little bit far out. Also had some tech difficulties. So what do you think was the biggest factor for them losing?
I don't know if there was one factor that really stood out more than anything else. I think that there were some strong performances on Joe, but the one thing that I noted about the team on attack was that they didn't really work as a team. It seemed like a couple different individuals that were trying to enter on Clubhouse. And, Joe, obviously, they had 5 defenses, they had 6 attacks. On defense, it's a lot easier to play off of your team. It's a lot easier to trade out. We saw Joe do that just fine. But on attack, there were way too many times where it seemed like somebody was on their own. They weren't working as well as they needed. There were some good glimpses at strong teamwork. Those 2 church assaults that we saw downstairs were excellent, I thought, from Joe, at least for a team that is still as new as they are. But then at the end of the day, they had some stumbles where it looked like somebody was getting tagged out and they didn't know where the opponents were, and either they didn't have good communication to be able to call it or they just weren't close enough to be able to do anything about it.
All right, gentlemen, well, let's get to map 2, Oregon, and we shall see who takes that map. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We've got maybe one more map left, maybe 2. We don't quite know yet. Here, as we might see the conclusion of the U.S. Challenger League. My name's Intero. This is Kickstar. Thanks for joining us. Map number 1 broke in favor of an upset team, The Last Dance. It's not their map choice. It was Joe's, but The Last Dance still wins at 7-4. That leaves The Last Dance's map of Oregon as the possible map hanging in the balance. Joe might not be able to survive this. Michael, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are the fact that The Last Dance managed to do so well on the first match, which was Joe's pick, really, I think, puts the writing on the wall for map number 2. And I mean, we've seen these kind of like reverse situations happen where teams will take each other's maps, so it's entirely possible that'll happen here as well. But I still give the edge to TLD going into map number 2, their map, Oregon, and we'll start the ban phase. Any predictions?
TLD is going to be starting. I'm sorry, would you say any predictions
for the ban phase?
I mean Thatcher, and probably Maverick.
Valkyrie or Kaid, probably.
I'm gonna say Valk Maestro.
Valk Maestro. Okay, that makes sense. I'm thinking with the Thatcher ban, Kaid might get banned here, and I definitely think Valk is gonna be a ban. So maybe let's just say Kaid Valk.
I know I was wrong about Maverick.
Yeah, but you know they banned Maverick in map 1, right?
Yes.
So
and then Kaid and Valk. So there's Mira.
So we were both wrong
All right.
about one of them at least.
All right.
What do you? I mean, it would be a Valkyrie, right?
This is probably gonna be a Valk ban. It's
Right?
gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Gotta be a Valk ban.
I hope we're not both wrong here. Oh.
All right. Well, today continues to be the day that nobody could predict.
That's really interesting though, because Wamai is such a huge factor. We actually saw in the last map he played a huge part in many of the defensive rounds for both teams. So I get that ban, especially on Oregon. We've seen Wamai, especially if you're like, let's say you're trying to hold blue on defense, right? On the bottom floor. Wamai is such an important, I'd say even essential operator down there. So this is going to put more pressure on Jaeger, first of all. And second of all, we might even see some Valkyrie play, which we don't get very often.
If Valkyrie shows up.
I mean, I'm not saying necessarily right like this round, but you know, maybe.
I was gonna say this Finka, that was pure bait on the Finka.
Must have been. I wonder if we are even gonna see Valkyrie play, because we've been seeing her getting banned so that you don't have to bring IQ, but then like sometimes people get phased out of whole. We have these loops like Valkyrie, IQ, and Echo. That's a loop, and then Bandit, Thatcher, Maverick, or Kaid, that's its own loop, and then there's more even added into that loop. We have these like loops of operators that work off of each other, whether on attack or defense. Sometimes when you get one of those whole loops banned out of the game, like Echo and Valkyrie, when you have those banned out, that's the Echo Valkyrie IQ loop. People just like to avoid it, like pretend that whole loop of operators don't exist. So maybe we won't see Valkyrie, I don't know. And we're not seeing IQ, so.
People have been playing IQ for the G8. I think this has been noted a couple times on the broadcast.
Yep.
The G8 is quite strong right now. So.
Probably the best gun in the game right now. I mean, I'd say it's the best gun.
Would you say that? Better than the AK-12 in Ace's hands? Really?
Well, see, yeah, but the AK-12 is, like, it doesn't have as many bullets. Yeah, the AK-12 is amazing. And the C7E is amazing. And the R4C is amazing. And the F2 is still really good. And
Even Stokes 2 nights ago proclaimed that the R4C was the best gun in the game, and I was like, Samuel, I will disagree.
I think after the angle grip, the G8 stepped into a whole new realm, and I think it needs some balancing, if I'm being honest here.
Yeah,
but
I should take away the angle grip, hey?
Well, that's a thing that could be done, yeah.
Oh no, I'm kidding.
Or
just take away the angled grip from IQ, but then everybody will just run the commando again.
Yeah, the commando was really good.
I mean, the problem with IQ, before we get back into this round, the problem with IQ is that she has 4, ARs, and there's really only ever one. Like one of them is going to be meta, right? Like
4?
Sorry, 3.
Yeah.
3 assault rifles. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all really good.
Whoops! I leaked the 4th assault rifle they're giving her. They're giving her the R4C with ACOG.
How could you, Parker?
Let's turn our sights towards this map, though, because here we are on the basement of Oregon, laundry supply room. And once again, whenever we see Oregon, there are no exact sciences when it comes to attacking this map. There are things that we see that are pretty standard, which is right now this play over by blue, where there's a late reinforcement that's going and trying to stun them, but no, Young is able to get it away just in time. And, well, Prophecy, you lose 50 HP. You've got Wimpy pretty close. Joe is knocking on the door right now of the site, and this looks like it could be a pixel angle that Wimpy might be able to win on a gunfight against Young should Young decide to challenge it.
Yeah, he also threw a nade, or Wimpy threw a nade in earlier, taking away about 50% of Young's HP, which is dangerous for him. Somehow Young perseveres, and the second nade from Wimpy did not follow, so he'll persist. He does know that there's an opponent there now, and he's going to prep the second nade. You can see him getting ready to throw it right now through the wall. There it goes, and down goes Young. Beautiful job to Wimpy getting that. But there's the gas canister in response, and tons of damage going on to Joe. They do get their second kill on a Butters. That's by Freezer. So that's a crossfire alleviated. But look at the HP on the attack. And Spades is playing above box drop. He can do massive work from here, and he already has. 2 kills for Spades. He'll drop into the smoke. The second one that just detonates. Down goes Rainbow, but it's Spades from behind who gets the last kill. And laugh. TLD finishing up the round.
That Spades flank was absolutely huge. 3 kills for the Jaeger as he patrols the hatch from above, and you pointed it out exactly right. He does so much damage, a significant amount of damage, and nobody seemed to know that there was a flank going on. Even after the first kill from Spades, there was no call made quickly enough to watch the hatch, and then he dropped, and the Hibana didn't really have much left. Clicks just had to continue going and try to frag as well as he could, knowing that he was down in numbers. I think it was a 1v2 at that point. It became an 0v2. Honestly, I liked the amount of time that the Last Dance wasted, and I also like that Joe, once they figured out exactly what it was, were able to take care of the ADSs that were positioned inside of blue. There is a big hole in the defenders lineup now that there is no Wamai. The Last Dance is starting on defense, and they were the ones who banned Wamai, so they know full well that they're going to have less protection when they're playing in blue downstairs, and yet they played around it so well. Yes, the grenade sailed through, did some damage to Young earlier on, but they were still able to get away. They were still able to only lose the deployable shield and then get the reinforcement up. Ultimately, like I said, I think it was well played, and now they'll move upstairs and see what damage they can do, as no Kaid is being brought. The only denial is going to be in the hands of Butters as the mute.
Dangerous, but workable. And the overall setup here from TLD is a very aggressive, super extended on the east side. I like the angle there that you can see Rainbow's going to try and play. It's not an easy angle to play with the SMG-11, but it's still a nice angle. Lots of pressure that will be applied to Master. So got Young inside a trophy. He'll be able to use his shield to good effect here, I think. He's got a nice little prone angle there on the side. You can see he can go prone to the left and do some work there. Spades will run out. What is this? Is it old Oregon? It feels like Oregon 2 years ago with that run out there at the bottom of white.
This is not that radically a different map, right? Like it still plays quite similar in certain instances. Obviously, there's been some major overhauling done to the map, but you can still take silly chances.
Certainly can, and well, it's paid off here for TLD. And there's a little bit of pressure that the Maverick is going to be putting out from that Armory Hall window, though. They have to be worried about that. That's Wimpy. He could do work here if he's allowed to.
Yeah, look at the setup that Brainbow is currently sitting in right now. He is not exactly in the best shape, and he's going to have to challenge Wimpy in a 1v1. And so far from what we're seeing today, Wimpy is quite good in those heads-ups, so be very careful, Brainbow. You have a hatch open if need be, and there you go. He's going to drop. But you're lucky that you got that opening pick on Rethinking, and especially with a gridlock on the board, this could have gone very badly for him if there was somebody that was watching on the flank. Doesn't appear to be the case, though, because Brainbow is just very able and very capable of getting out of there safely. Killing a lot of time in the process halfway through the round, and the only thing that's really happened is, other than Spades and Rethinking dealing some damage to each other and Rethinking dying, it's still been a very quiet second round.
Yeah, what I'm noticing most here from TLD, and if I'm being honest, what I think will give them the edge, and if they win this match, if we have to pick one particular trait, it's the shot calling from TLD, because you saw there that fallback, it happened from Young and Brainbow at the same time around the half round mark. It was calculated. They knew exactly when they were going to fall off of that, and they're continuing to peel back. TLD has not incurred any casualties, and they've wasted a tremendous amount of time. So the shot calling, again, has worked out really well. Now, the gunfight potential is going to be the main factor here, as both teams are in decent shape when it comes to that final team fight. In the last few seconds of the round, it's just all going to be all those heads-up fights, like I mentioned.
This is a gridlock getting really aggressive, and Young just flattens Prophecy, but an immediate refrag from Beastly as he ascends White Stairs, looking longingly. What a shot from Butters! They've been seeing some incredible playmaking from different players in this lobby so far. Challenging opportunity now for Wimpy, but an opportunity nonetheless as he gets pummeled as he sprints on in. Very vulnerable through that window. It's a triple crossfire, or tri-fire, I guess you could call it. It's going to leave Beastly just to die on the top of White Stairs, and the last dance goes up 2-0.
Yep, that's it. All right, solid hold there on the White Stairs, the big window as well, and attic, and really just all of it. You saw that Joe were setting up all around the bomb site, trying to leverage some picks, trying to make something happen, primarily by White Stairs and big window, and it just didn't work. A big problem, I mean, a lot of you probably saw this, was that barricade that got opened up as Young was attempting to rotate downstairs. He got spooked off of that rotation, and he was about to die, but then one of the players on Joe broke the doorway and then forced Young to back up. Then it was Prophecy who broke that doorway. Then Prophecy dies after breaking the doorway, and that means Young equalizes. Before he even knows that it's going to happen, he refrags himself. And that's a beautiful, unfortunate event there for Joe. They've got to really be frustrated about that one. Young almost died for free, and if he had, that would have given White Stairs control for free over to Joe. Then maybe your push over by the big window is a little bit different. But moving on.
Did we see them tackle Armory at all, or did they just completely ignore it? Because it certainly seemed like they ignored the attackers. It didn't look like they did anything about that Armory. It looks like they realized the situation going on in Armory, and they decided instead that maybe we'll go to White Stairs and we'll go to big window. And they just completely avoided that part of the map, which hurts the attackers because you know how strong playing that part of the map is for the attack.
Yeah, and more importantly, it really is, I think, telling of a lack of information on the side of the attack side. Or why did I say that? On the side of the attack. Joe could have determined that, okay, yeah, there's nobody over there anymore. Because exactly at half round, the defense left Armory side. They didn't roam there anymore. So it was free real estate. It could have been seized upon. It wasn't. Joe adjusted their entire attack, and well, they cost them. What is that spot?
The Vigil spot?
Yeah,
I don't. This is the big thonk from Butters. Down goes Spades, though. Butters will need to immediately refrag, and if he takes out Clicks, that'll actually be huge. One of the two hard breachers would fall, and the one holding onto the diffuser, but still, that opening duel for Joe. Not bad. And you can see a quick execute as teams can immediately leverage that pick and look for more. Instead, it looks like they've just got the pick, and they're going to go about doing what they usually need to do, but the focus at the moment appears to be over, maybe towards Dining Hall? Less focus on Big Tower and Meeting, given that this is a meeting kitchen bomb site.
You know, something that's really interesting about this is actually Cafeteria hold. Because TLD is holding Cafeteria. Almost no other team we've seen defend this site does that. Most defenders sacrifice Cafeteria and just say, okay, we're going to hold B, either off B or on B, but not extended from B. Prophecy gets his second kill. That's Young. This security position is a huge weakness to TLD's defense. They really didn't put a lot of thought into holding that position.
No, Prophecy in particular is also having a great round, and Beastly gets in on that one. There's another for the Maestro, but he gets caught looking, and now that Maestro, as we talked about, was going to be so pivotal, it falls on the shoulders of the Valkyrie, who finally shows up and gets removed from the Ash. A 3K from Prophecy in the very first round for Joe will be on the board, as really the story of that round happened so much earlier on. A couple key picks to start off with, get that ball rolling. 2 from Prophecy within the first minute and a half of action before you've even set your sights on tackling the anchors. Well played and a good solid entry, but so is the way that Oregon goes, and most of these maps you don't see a solid rotation. Still 2 successful defenses for the Last Dance as Laundry Supply opens back up, and unsurprisingly, that's exactly where the Last Dance will go.
So that round, I would actually say it has an interesting element to it in terms of strategy, and you can kind of zoom out to really get the right picture on it. It comes down to the extension into Cafeteria, if I'm being honest. That extension made the actual hold on the site too weak. There wasn't enough manpower there. And as soon as Joe realized, oh, hey, we can just push into security, they did that. And then they're like, oh, hey, you know what we can do after pushing into security? We can push into the site. And they did that. And all the while, they're picking up kill after kill after kill. And it's because that hold there is so weak. And it's so weak because of the extension. There's too much ground to cover for the defense. And they're not lethal enough on their individual positions. Those kinds of holds work fine if everyone's winning all of their gunfights. But they are terrible if one person misses their shot. Because when that happens, that's a huge swath of land now sacrificed to the attack, and your round spirals out of control. Anyway, we're going to the bottom floor for the next round. TLD will try to hold on to blue lightly here, and Young will probably be pushed off this pretty quickly.
Well, that was the goal last time around, right? Was to absorb as much time or absorb as much utility and time as possible. He's sitting with 2 ADSs and a Goyo shield, and this is very standard stuff. You've got the rotate, shoot the Goyo shield, and then get the rotate set up so that they can't push you through the fire and the flames. He'll wait for more of these drones to go out, but in the meantime, he'll just continue to work through whatever the attackers throw at him. And Prophecy's drone actually manages to get away. It is crucial to take out as much of these little intel gathering devices as possible because the attackers only have 10 of them. And, well, I mean, it's not always possible to see exactly how many are gone, but right now it certainly seems like the attackers are at a disadvantage because of that. It's also wasted about a minute so far, with nobody really being able to take control of blue. Young still hasn't been removed from that position, and it looks like the Ash is going to go on to drone with yet another drone now on the back stairs. So tons of effort being done from Joe, but very limited success from it.
Drop down open. Wimpy could do work from that. Now, the attack does need to worry about the pressure that can be turned on its head if the defense retakes into meeting. We've seen that before. We saw that with Spades. He managed to win this last attack onto the bottom floor, or rather, this last defense on the bottom floor for TLD. But surprisingly, Young hasn't been pushed off just yet. It's half round, so he's going to use a C4 and fall back, which is what he's been waiting to do this whole round. You can hear the reinforcement, so the attack knows what's happening here. That's more time wasted than Young was even bargaining for. The only thing that's not great is he expended his C4, which could have been used for something else later in the round. Well, could have been used for plant denial. There is no other C4. It's all on Rainbow's gas canisters now after that usage.
1 minute left, and the first bit of damage done to the attackers onto Wimpy come all the way from the freezer, and that's Butters. Long range with ACOG, and he's going to continue to play that angle. This is a very single-minded push from the attackers right now. They're all taking that pillar back tower style of play. And if you remember last time, Spades came around on a flank and was able to catch them off guard. The question is going to be, is anybody from The Last Dance poised for a flank? Butters is just going to pick them off one by one as they walk into his line of sight. 3 more remain, and that's 2 kills for The Last Dance to start off the fun. 24 seconds left, give or take. There's Young with 2 kills, and this round is essentially over. Prophecy sprints into his death, takes out Butters in the process, but that'll be all she wrote. A successful defense of Laundry Supply for the second time will put The Last Dance at a 3-1 advantage.
Beautiful round there to TLD. You could see Joe got the angles they wanted. They got the control they wanted. But once again, and I said this, I think earlier in this match, but it might have been in the last one, because we did see Oregon played there too. The control that was established for the attack was not earned, it was given. The defense allowed the attack to push into where they pushed in by falling back, peeling on time management, and just saying, you know what, we don't have to hold here anymore. We're gonna back up. And then Joe swoops in, takes that control, but it doesn't matter. They didn't do a whole lot of work with it, and it ultimately plays in the hands of TLD. Now that really doesn't bode well for you as a team if you're Joe, considering how actually not only did you not do much work with the control you had, but it sometimes worked against them. I mean, many of you, I'm sure, saw that angle that Butters was playing from inside a freezer. That was through the Maverick hole in the small wall to sight. Then he's continuing from there to put more pressure onto Pillar by just peeking straight through freezer door. These are angles. Well, the first one's a little bit wacky. The second one's very predictable, and I'm surprised that the attack lost anyone to that angle. just a weird kind of round there for Joe. And I mean, yeah, a solid one for TLD.
Objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
So upstairs, TLD is going to go to the other bomb site that they had won. Since they've already completed the laundry supply room sweep, they can't go back there on this defense. There's still one more round for them on D. And as we are seeing right now in the meta of Rainbow Six Siege, a 4-2 is typically where you find a defending team. That was the scoreline of the very first defense from The Last Dance on Clubhouse, and I don't see any reason to think that it wouldn't be the same here. That gives The Last Dance 2 rounds to put up a victory, and well, given the fact that they didn't really sweat this bomb site the first time, I would say that it's probably a safe bet that it's going to happen here rather than meeting downstairs. And a big part of the defense hinged around the way that they played at the top of White Stairs through the kids' dorms part, and then also over towards Armory, which is where Brainbow was playing, but he's doing it a little bit differently this time. He's not going to aggressively hold Armory. He's going to be down below, waiting to see if somebody's going to enter to try to flush him out.
Those track stingers are going to be a real pain if you try to flank here. Mainly, they just give away your position, though, and your intentions, which is the key. Right, an air jab can be more easily circumvented than a bunch of track stingers, because those track stingers, you have to shoot more bullets or an impact or what have you. With an air jab, sometimes it's just one tap and you move on. So that's kind of the trade-off. It's more awareness, I'd say, if the enemy is vigilant, versus a potential for complete maneuvering around. Now, tower control does not equal site control. Kilo still has attic presence. He's going to fall back. I think that's the right call. Again, TLD, their time management. Look at the clock. I mean, you don't have to hold attic if there's only a minute left on the execution. You could just chill. You could play back in the site, and that's exactly what TLD are doing. They're very aware of their circumstances.
Trying to bait out the Goyo to swing on the Zofia that's playing over by Master, but nobody's taking the bait just yet. And Young knows that with the TCSG, if you miss that first shot, you are in significant trouble. The problem is, as you noted for Joe, is that they don't have a wealth of time left. Rethinking inside a trophy is going to be huge, providing he stays in that position, but he does not know where he needs to be. And the Jaeger of Spades is going to be watching this. You better be able to land your shots if you're the Zofia. Clicks with 2 big kills onto both Young and Brainbow inside of Attic, but there goes Rethinking to Spades. Maestro cut down from Clicks, who finds his 3rd kill, a huge round from the support player, and it's going to put Butters in an almost unwinnable situation. He'll swing wildly and miss every single target in the process, and Wimpy will clean up, giving Joe their 2nd round. Only 1 remaining defense for The Last Dance before the side swap.
It all went wrong there for the defense as Clicks picked up those 2 kills. That was huge. Didn't actually see where he got them from, but that's...
Attic. They were in Attic, and then the other was the back of kids' dorms, it looked like.
Okay. That entry's from Attic, then, I guess really you can lay that at the feet of TLD for positioning themselves exposed to Attic, because in that scenario, they really didn't need to be. I mean, they'd already lost control, rather given away control of Attic. They fell back. They played in the site. So why are they, what are they, peeking the rotation hole, peeking through the site, the main door, whatever it is, it's not necessary. And there's definitely, I think, a different solution that could have been presented there from TLD. I would have expected a little bit more aggression specifically from Young when he was kind of tucked away in the corner. He was very exposed to the trophy peak. He was very exposed to the attic peak. It was likely him who died early on, probably the players by games. Either way, it was not a great holdout there for TLD. Now, luckily for them, they get a 2nd try. They're going to go back to the top floor, and they're going to, once again, throw themselves at this hole.
Now, as this game is ongoing, there are other Challenger League games that are playing as well, and there was one that a lot of people had asked about, which was Rent Free, the spiritual successor to both Luminosity and 72 Dream, or 92 Dream Team, rather. And then PogChamp. Now, we're not going to give away the scoreline on that one, but that match has concluded. Feel free to look on social media. If you follow any of the players that were active in that matchup, you are more than welcome to go and find that information for yourself. But for those that might be watching this later on, or for those that are watching it live, there's no real reason to dive into it. Just know that that match is over. It was quite a quick one, actually. And that there are other matches currently ongoing in US Challenger League as well. And it's important that if you're watching, to follow along with the various players in USCL, as they will be updating you as to what the scores are. Of course, we are lucky to be able to watch this one in front of our eyes, and there could be a 3rd map, as we are right now we're about halfway through, honestly, unless this map and the other map go really, really deep on in.
Yep. That is, of course, assuming we get to another map. If TLD take this second map, then, I mean, well, we will lock it out here and things will move on. But Joe has definitely got a lot of gas left in the tank and a lot of potential to bring us to that map number 3. So let's not count them out. Give them some time while we figure out what's going on here. I just want to say, I love the way that Gridlock works here, because you're going to Maverick the wall, right? And then you can not only put track stingers up on your flank, but you can also use the sidearm shotgun to open the wall as efficiently as possible, and that leaves things like Ash charges and Zofia lifelines, getting rid of the evil eye cams that are in play in this match, and the shields as well. So that's just good thinking there from Joe.
Gridlock is an exceptionally powerful operator, but a lot of times teams just don't have a use for her because they need something else, and especially when you're looking at taking out these bulletproof gadgets, she doesn't really bring much because she doesn't have any explosives, and I think that really is kind of her undoing. Spades goes down, though, so Joe will start things off with an advantage. Good for them. There's about 1 minute and 15 seconds left. It took quite a while for us to see the first casualty on the previous round, which was the same bomb seed. It was a bunks defense upstairs from the last dance. So already Joe in better position. But we'll see if that actually works, because so far today, it's not always a good sign or a good predictor.
Oh. Terrible timing there for Young as Wimpy peeks right as Young's checking for a drone, and Wimpy's nade will also take down Kilo. This is looking a whole lot like a 3-3, and we projected the 4-2. I mean, I expected it, certainly. Clicks will go down to the C4 and will be finished off by Wimpy's detonation of the shield. That's why it's a team kill. There's still potential here for the defense. Butters is on an MPX. He might be able to make it happen. Rethinking, though, takes down Brainbow. It's all on Butters. He picks up one. That's technically his second. Rethinking's going for a plant, though, and Butters doesn't have a C4 anymore. He'll need to rotate out of dorms, and this is not going to be easy for him to do. Nice shot from Butters. One in attic, and he doesn't get the kill. The pea shooter that is the MPX does not land the body shots in fast enough order to get the kill onto Beastly, who will lock out that round and put this half at 3-3.
He hit the Gridlock, though. With her being a 3 armor, it actually does give her a bit more sustain and staying power than you'd imagine. But this is a great scoreline for Joe, if I'm being completely frank. You know, we came in here, and through those first 4 rounds, the last dance was up 3-1. We were looking at it and thinking, okay, this might be over faster than we thought. This is the last dance's map. Are we going to go late into this one, or is it going to be a quick 2-0? Well, the answer so far is that no matter what happens here, it's not going to be quick, because we've still got 4 rounds at minimum of the remaining 6 before overtime is required. And I have a feeling that with the way that the first 6 rounds played out, this will be back and forth. I don't expect, given what we've seen, either of these teams to show a huge edge, with now Joe going on to defense and the last dance going on to attack. A laundry supply room defense downstairs is where Joe is going to start, and funny enough, it's the only bomb site played by TLD that didn't go in favor of the attackers. So this is an edge and an advantage that Joe could possibly end up having, as just like we saw in the Canada Division match earlier today with Livid, Joe has yet to lead this series. They have either been tied or trailing, and they actually haven't been tied until just now. So here's their opportunity in their moment to try and stretch out this lead and knock the last dance on their heels.
10 seconds left.
Certainly, it's certainly feeling a bit like a map number 3 right now, just because of the fact that we've got Joe going on to defense. And I mean, let me take a look at the stats real quick. But I have a hunch that Oregon is turning out to be a defender-sided map, just because of the nature of maps in Steam. We typically see them pan out to be defender-sided when they first get released, and this is technically a new map because of the rework. And yeah, in the US division, at the very least, of the 3 times it's been played, it has a 73% defensive win rate. So if you're using that as an example, as a measuring tool, Joe's up in a really good spot right now.
This is the same utility that's being eaten away here at Blue Bunker. Grenade goes in, and it'll actually hit the shield, and Rethinking will be able to get out of there without losing too much HP. Just a very, very tiny amount. He's going to hang on for now and dare somebody to try to take a fight on him. Young punishing Prophecy, that's the very first pick, and it's on back tower as well. There was the Jaeger, who had been excellent at flanking on Spades' end, but Prophecy's not going to be able to do the same thing. Down goes Butters as Wimpy ends up winning that duel. And now this Evil Eye Cam is up. The Doc will swing on it. Wimpy will try to give himself a little bit extra life, but no, he's gone. Frag Grenade will blow up Spades. An unfortunate team kill after Spades had taken out the Doc. And then the Goyo shredded as well. But it looks like both of those panels have been reinforced, so the Goyo was likely playing to die. This is a very quick round unfolding in front of our eyes. We're only halfway through it. Technically not even halfway through just yet, and there's only half the lobby left. Now more damage being done to Clicks as he pulls his shotgun out, and will there be a ceasefire? Smoke will go off inside of Pillbox. Brainbow pushes up, and it doesn't look like the action is going to stop at any point.
I don't think they're aware that that smoke of Clicks has not rotated from his corner yet. They seem to be aware of his position initially, but I don't know if they're still holding him. No, they let him go, but he at least gets caught by Young. Good diligence there from Young playing the long angle. Now it's all on Beastly. He's got to hold out for a whole minute against 3, but he's got an Aldo, which is the ideal weapon in this scenario. He's going to have to get at least one 1v1 for this to be likely, and he's not even going to win that. Young on the long angle will take down Beastly, and TLD, with an explosive start to the second half, will win their first attack.
Young has been absolutely incredible, and I mean, he is down in Challenger League, to be fair. It's not the usual Pro League stomping grounds, but I will say this. As a completely neutral bystander when it comes to this matchup, I don't care which team wins at all. It is nice to see somebody like Young, who's been around as long as he has, still doing well. And there was a period of time where he had talked about leaving Rainbow Six behind, but he decided, well, one last dance. And that's exactly why, in combination with the fact that it's named after the Michael Jordan documentary, is why they have this name. So Young giving it one more whirl, and the team that ends up finishing first in US Challenger League at the end of this year will end up playing against the worst team in the US division, and then the winner of that will be the 8th team in the US division next year. So obviously a lot on the line for this team and a lot on the line for somebody like Young. He's a former world champion. He's a seasoned champion as well. He's got an impressive resume. He's pulled off some absolutely incredible plays through the history of Rainbow Six. And yeah, like I said, it's nice to see him still doing well. Ditto can be said for Beastly, who hasn't the same amount of accolades, or doesn't have the same amount of accolades as Young, but has been around forever. And it's nice to see Beastly doing well and still thriving too.
10 seconds to go.
I mean, overall, if you take a zoom out and you look at all the players in this lobby, there's a little bit of story everywhere, and yeah, I think across the board, this has just been such a good matchup for no other reason than because we're seeing some proof of the talent that you expect to see from these squads. Now, TLD are very quickly onto blue. This is, again, a defensive of the bottom floor, and I believe Rainbow droned that out, and he called it out, and Spade was like, okay, free kill, and he took that free kill, and down goes Beastly. So, your Maestro's gone, your Evil Eyes are silent. Hopefully they're positioned well, because they're not going to be doing anything zip-zappity like you normally see in this round.
Another position to play to die for rethinking. He was the Goyo last time, and there goes the final charge from the ADS. The C4 goes and doesn't do anything. Frag grenade from Butters goes in, and now Clicks tagged in to reinforce the wall, and they'll realize very quickly that this was a missed opportunity. But look at the tempo that was set. The Doc positioned as well. Oh my, this is very easily done, but they are not able to coordinate well enough, and Wimpy is going to be able to get away. Fearing a push from the back where Spades is positioned, that's where Wimpy will train his sight towards the stairs, watching the back of tower, or back tower as you'd like to call it, Harry Potter, whichever you'd like to refer to it as. Still, like you pointed out, those Evil Eye cams are in a great spot if they can just continue, and you have to use kind of hard destruction. Oh, the last dance is just bringing the heat right now, forcing Joe out of their comfortable positions. A 2v5 with the last dance in very firm control right now. 90 seconds, and it's just rethinking and Clicks left. That's it. Maybe there will be a bit of a slow as you can see the walls go off, but no, Clicks is now dead, and a flawless round looks exceedingly likely, and it becomes not just likely, but reality. Spades with a huge performance in that round, and it's 5-3 with both attacking rounds so far going in favor of the last dance, almost surely, Michael, pushing Joe to pick another bomb site.
Yeah, I would imagine they got to go somewhere else, and there you go. They're going to go to kids, so that's the right call. The bottom floor does not work. They've established that, and what that is scary, or the reason that's scary is because if the bottom floor doesn't work, then oh boy, I sure hope you can find 2 other sites that are gonna work for you. Because even if Joe takes this next defense on the top floor, where are they going? Are they gonna go to Meeting Kitchen? Probably, yeah. But that's not necessarily proven to be the best site. We've seen it played a few times, actually quite a few times from many teams, but it has looked lackluster compared to top and bottom, in direct comparison at least. So this is very sketch right now for Joe, and we forecasted a turnaround of the way that this match was going to be played when we switched the halves, and in a manner of speaking, we've seen that, because the first half was 3-3. So it could have turned around in either direction, I guess. It certainly turned in the favor of TLD. They have proven themselves to be even more capable on attack than they were on defense. Very impressive. I really got to hand it to TLD for that execution for blue on those 2 rounds. And they just seem to know exactly how to pick apart that hold.
Both times it looked so almost effortless, and that second attack from the Last Dance was actually quite impressive with how quickly they were able to go right in. You pointed out that Spades got droned in, got the pick onto Beastly, the Maestro down. That's a very crucial operator, and it's not like you ever want to surrender that opening pick, ever. You never want to be in a position where you have to fight from behind, but there are certain operators that you can chance losing. Maestro is usually not one of those operators. Smoke is an operator that doesn't happen to fall into that. If you're on attack, it's a Thermite, it's a Hibana, it's a Maverick. So losing that Maestro early, not just a blow in terms of what you have gun-wise, it's a massive blow in terms of utility. And that was a problem. I mean, there were a lot of problems for Joe, but I just think the Maestro one is probably the easiest to look at. Now, a very quick attic attack, and boy, I gotta say, the Last Dance is clearly very comfortable with attacking on Oregon so far.
Yeah, they've been speedy on every facet of their attacks. They're going to start clearing out the ADSs, applying pressure to the shield. They'll nade it in a little bit once Butters is good and ready. And then they'll start pushing in through attic. And they're doing this so quickly, so systematically. Looks like they're actually going to use some other form of utility to get rid of the shield. Or maybe they don't even feel the need to do so, as Butters is going to rotate. That shield will persist. Now that's the games wall opened up there by the Hibana. Shield gone, done by Brainbow. He can do it himself. He doesn't need Butters' help. Zone nades. Now Spades is going to be repelling on games window, it seems. It's a dangerous thing to do. He's outside the window right now, just looking for information. Okay, look at that. This is the main point of the defense here for Joe. 2 C4s from below, the Mute and the Pulse. They can do a lot of work from underneath in denying pushes, denying plants. And that's their whole job. And if that's not dealt with by TLD, things could get really sketchy for the attack.
They're going to have to support those players down below, as you pointed out. And obviously, it's a plant denial strategy or even a retake there. And it's Spades that's now on the hunt down below. He's a crouch walking Ash. He's totally silent. So unless the Pulse spots him, which he does, then this could be the jig being up. But oh no, what a beautiful toss. And Beastly reads him like a book. His prophecy had started this round with a kill for his team. And Joe finds himself on the board. But a bit of a misstep. It'll narrow in terms of advantage as Clicks gets taken out. The smoke eliminated by rethinking on a team kill that was obviously not likely. Prophecy downs Kylo. There goes Brainbow, and Young is dead as well. All right, well, everything just happens all at the same time. It's 5-4 for the Last Dance, but Joe is able to put up yet another round on the board. Their very first successful defense.
Absolute sweep when it comes to the execution in through the attic. It was clamped down upon by the defense, and they did not let go. And that's D4, as you mentioned, Parker. That was integral to the outcome. When you get those indirect kills with those C4s, you don't even give the enemy a chance. That really, I mean, usually what that means is you're not going to incur much damage on the person throwing the C4, and thus they're going to have more freedom to take future engagements. And that really does set the tempo. It adjusts what's possible for each team. So those could be really big. And also, key is the roam downstairs. The fact that we are going to get a rehost in all likelihood, so we'll wait for that to be called, of course, but it's almost certain to happen here. There's the confirmation coming out. So it'll be 5-4 still. It'll still be kitchen defense, or kitchen cafeteria defense, interestingly, but we'll have to come back to it after we have this brief pause.
Yeah, this is an interesting site for us to go to. Usually it's meeting hall and kitchen that we'll see get played, but instead we're going to see that dining hall cafeteria bomb site in addition to kitchen. Kitchen, of course, acting as the middle point that connects meeting and dining. But we don't really have a lot of information on this bomb site because it has only been shown a tiny number of times, and I am curious to see how it gets played out. I'd imagine a lot of teams are probably going to take it from small tower and then go from there, probably put one person over towards meeting and maybe even two over towards back tower, but your guess is as good as mine, as we don't really have a ton of vision on it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll throw over some replays while we talk about this, and it's definitely a scenario that I think is interesting. In the U.S. division, we've only seen this site played one time, which is got a 100% win rate, so that's pretty solid. It's a really good ratio, I would say, but it's still not like a big sample size. So what does it really matter? There's not much to be said, as you mentioned. We're going to have to wait for them to prove it themselves. I will say it's very similarly defended when you compare it to meeting. I mean, it shares a room, it shares a bomb site with meeting. So it's not as if we're going to have to reinvent the wheel for this site. There's just going to be slight variation here and there. That extension that we saw into a meeting when you commonly go to that site is going to have to be shifted over to cafeteria. Defense is going to have to take a little bit of a separate stance, but I don't know, it's a very similar bomb site. I imagine it'll be attacked and defended in a similar way, probably just from a different direction.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see how it plays out, because I feel like it's one of those bomb sites where if a team isn't anticipating going as an attacking squad to it, then they might not exactly have the best strategy baked in, especially on a map like this where we already can tell that teams are not exactly the most experienced because it is still a relatively new map. You know, we've seen this time and time again, and Teller's Archives on Consulate was a great example of it. When it first debuted, there was a very clear amount of evidence to suggest that teams had no idea what the hell they were doing when they were attacking, and frankly, some of them didn't know what the hell they were doing when they were defending it either. As for this bomb site, like you said, we have a tiny sample size. That's all we can really go off of, so speculation is really going to win the day on this one, and I mean, we are paid speculators often, so speculate is what we will do. I mean, if we look at this matchup so far, though, did you expect Oregon to be as close as we've had it been so far through 9 rounds?
No. Based on map number 1, I didn't necessarily expect what we're seeing right now. It's certainly coming across as Joe is more comfortable on Oregon, and I'm confused then because it's not their map pick. This is TLD's map pick, so that shift is unexpected to be sure. But not unwelcome. I mean, I think all kind of wanted this to go to map number 3, and it's certainly looking like it might do, based on that last round at the very least. The only thing that could, in my opinion, lock this out is the fact that Joe can't defend the bottom floor. That really does put them in a bit of a corner in terms of site selection. So they're going to be limited in options soon. They're probably going to stick to the meeting and kitchen defense and the cafeteria kitchen defense and the top floor. So I guess this next round will be the big decider. If Joe goes to this site and they find themselves very comfortable, very confident, and they take it, then I'm thinking map number 3. If this ends up going the way of TLD, there's very little chance Joe's going to be able to take it. It'll come down purely individual efforts and less of a team effort overall, in my opinion. Less strategy, more just somebody's going to need to clutch up.
We do know that the dorms bomb site will open up after the next defense. So the very final round will be able to get played on that double dorms bomb site should we make it that far in the game, which is by no means a given. A successful round here from Joe, you speculate move us to a third map, would mean a tie between these two teams. But as you pointed out, they can't defend that bottom floor. I wonder if they're gambling on this bomb site to then throw the meeting kitchen bomb site in as their new third and just avoid going to laundry supply room from there on out, because there will obviously be some similarities to how teams defend the dorms bomb site upstairs and how they defend kitchen and meeting, especially involving attic play and especially involving the kids' dorm play, because both of those are areas that you need to hold on to when you're defending the second floor bomb site. You have to hold on to them too if you're defending meeting and kitchen. They are crucial, and you cannot allow a team to put soft destruction up there like a Zofia or a Sledge or a Buck, etc. It causes way too much of a headache on the defenders down below. So that's my theory for Joe, is that they're going to try to throw this kitchen and dining hall bomb site in, and then they'll go to meeting and kitchen afterwards. That's my speculation. We'll see if it holds up, because I could be proven wrong here, depending on what happens in this round.
Well, as you said, we're just going to have to see if it holds up. Now, the
Attackers need to
game
locate
is
and defuse
chugging
bombs.
along. We're back into the site that we expected to be at. Everybody's ready. Everything's lined up correctly. Let's take a look at this setup. Interesting shield there to start things off by rethinking. I think that one's for denial of the plant. I'm guessing the default plant spot's going to be in the southwest corner for this bomb site. Reinforcements coming right up after that. You've got Mute in play. He's the only denial operator in terms of heart destruction. You've also got Jaeger, who is the only denial operator in terms of those throwables or those projectiles. It's going to be an extension into the showers in an attempt to hold on to the site indirectly. If you hold showers, it's really going to be hard for the attack to plant inside of A. And as you mentioned, Parker, A is likely to be one of the primary targets for the attack. Now, there is a very, very light defense being set up on the B-bomb site. You can see that it's a little bit less of a focus in terms of utility, in terms of player positioning currently, though that can change. And in terms of, I guess, information, just in general, it seems like less of a focus. I'm imagining that they're going to try and hold the B side by roaming above. And I think that's going to be their primary focus on their way to deny that push.
I think that's pretty accurate, given what we've seen. The A-bomb site is a nightmare to hold above, because you can't really make it at a small tower that way. So, I mean, I guess you can, but you're going to have to fight your way out, which not a lot of people are going to be keen to do, and you're often playing to die in that particular instance, because you're still likely vaulting out a window or trying to drop down to get back into that dining hall bomb site, which will likely be cut off by somebody playing over by small tower. In the meantime, the spread from Joe upstairs on White Stairs and over by Kid's Dorm and inside of Attic shows that they are playing most of their defenders up top, as you very rightly speculated on.
They'll be spotted out, though. At least Wimpy will be. Fire will ensue. Tracers flying past Wimpy as he attempts to hold on to Attic. He's actually, I mean, as far as operators go, if I were to have one cornered in Attic, I'd probably say that Maestro's a really good option there. It'd been better when he had the ACOG, but he could still lay down some serious fire through this wall and slow down the attack, which is exactly what he's doing. You can see Wimpy is aware he does not need to peek this. He just needs to prevent the enemy from taking his position.
It's a nice spot to be in right now, but the greater issue that you're going to have if your TLD is not even necessarily your opponents. It's that clock up in the middle of your screen, 90 seconds through, and nobody's really blinking right now. The Maestro is at a disadvantage, but he does some damage to Butters and softens him up. It's a 3 armor, so he's going to take quite a bit of damage too. Sledge will break through the walk-in closet and then move up towards the foosball table, which used to be referred to as generator. There's Beastly playing Nitro Cell if required, gets droned out of Kids' Dorms, and Young gets the lead-off kill onto the Maestro, who'd been under fire earlier on, but has been been spotted yet. Well, he's playing on White Stairs, shotgun out, he'll hit the Nomad. Young has no chance there, but Beastly should be refragged. What a shot onto the Maverick! My goodness, from Beastly takes out Rainbow in a fight he had almost no business winning, and that could be an entire game changer. Beastly down, though, in the corner. No points on, so they don't know if they can secure just yet. They'll have to drone him out, but only 30 seconds left. That's all you're working with. Clicks, Rethinking, and Prophecy are still up. This is terrible if you look at it from the perspective of TLD. They see the down and will finish off. 20 seconds left to try to get in toward the bomb site, but there's no way they're going to be able to do this alive. Look at how low Spades and Butters are, and they're still toxic. Canisters up. Clicks has 2 more that he can throw, and there you go. He's going to smoke them off at the bottom of the stairs. They realize that their path is not as clear as it needs to be. Damage being done, and there's the flames. Kylo and Spades with 1 apiece. It's all Prophecy in a 1v3, but the diffuser isn't being planted, and he just lives on. Prophecy, the hero of that round, 5-5, all tied up.
Prophecy, the last to stay alive and win it on the time. Beastly, the man who beast moded upstairs and delayed for a solid chunk of time, probably a minute plus himself. And Wimpy, who started it all off, delaying the push in through Trophy, cornered inside of Attic. These are the 3 main characters in that last round, the protagonists, if you will, who managed to bring that round to their team's win column. And that's a really impressive one from them. And it does bode well for Joe overall. It is going to open up that top floor, which is where we'll see the defense go next. Or rather, well, we would see the defense go next if I wasn't mistaken, I guess. That's weird. They're going to go downstairs. Or wait, was it this round that it opens up, or was it the next one, Parker? Am I crazy?
The laundry supply room never got opened up.
No,
the
not this
upstairs, one. Yeah, the upstairs dorms opens up in the final round.
Okay, so it's the final round.
Next one.
So I am crazy. In that case...
No, crazy place for Tempo Storm.
Oh my god, this again. Excuse me. You guys see what I have to deal with. The bottom floor, though. Why defend this? I mean, they can go meeting, to be clear. They can go kitchen meeting. That is an option. And they opt for bottom floor, which has just been so unfriendly to Joe so far. This is a curious choice. Parker?
I mean, they might. Let me think.
No thinking. Only words.
I try to think before I speak.
Immediate words.
Immediate words is literally my job description. That needs to go on one day when I die my tombstone. Immediate words.
It's perfect.
Professional caster description sayer of immediate words. So anyway, I'm kind of puzzled by this, to be fair. I just think that maybe they weren't comfortable, and I had guessed this, and I am now wrong. I had guessed that maybe they would be going upstairs to meeting and kitchen, but that hasn't been the case. So
same.
Yeah, and just forego laundry supply room. That makes the most sense, but that's not what they're doing. Instead, they're going to go back downstairs. They've made a couple changes. They're not going to be running the dock. They're going to be playing a little bit farther back, and maybe they're going to take the gunfight here as the Maestro just needs to peek. Oh, what a shot from Wimpy onto Spades. Looking for a second, but he's not able to do anything just yet. It turns out that this was a smart idea from Joe, as the shotgun from Beastly, well, it costs him 25 HP, but finds his own target onto Young on backstairs. This is a much tougher spot to be in if you're the Last Dance now, as Butters takes some damage too. The Maestro going for a second try. A little bit of damage as he goes off to Harry Potter, and he'll play underneath the stairs. Pause for but a moment.
He can't get away with that again. Surely there's no way that he's going to be allowed to peek continuously and keep taking players off of the Last Dance. Small hole made there by the Maverick, and he's going to open up an angle to allow for a cutoff of the typical anchor position in the site. Harry Potter is Wimpy, and he'll down Kilo. He's still getting away with this somehow. Wimpy needs to be dealt with. There's no nades left, despite having 2 nade operators. It would be a really ideal piece of kit to have right now. Finally, down goes Wimpy, though I don't think that they're going to expect the player on the tower stairs. They might actually, though, as you can see the slow peek coming out.
I don't know if they're going to be able to get Kilo back up or not. It doesn't look like that's the focus right now. He does get picked back up from Butters, so it's 4v3 though, and Joe just need to ride out the storm. 4v3 becomes a 4v2. Beastly still on the back stairs. He claimed Young, and there you go. It's going to be match point for Joe. This has been a tough one for the Last Dance. They were so comfortable here on this bomb site, but a couple changes and tinkering with the strategy has made all the difference for Joe. They'll bury the Hibana inside a bunker and close the doors. 6-5 Joe on match point with one more round. Push us to map 3.
All right, so clearly Joe has gotten more comfortable defending the bottom floor. And so I guess shame on us for worrying about them as they go downstairs. They clearly are plenty capable of taking it. That is a very different picture than what they had painted with the last 2 defenses of the bottom floor, the first 2 defenses on the second half. And a big part of that is just, I think, the inability of the attack, or the Last Dance, to clear out tower and sure up their flank. Meaning that when they pushed in through the pillar, they were entering into a crossfire, and that is not ideal. It's very uncomfortable. And Beastly did a great job, not only of getting the initial kill in tower, but also in denying that push into pillar fully, just by his presence alone. And also, he did get the kill on the initial entry from the attack. So, props to the defense. Props to Wimpy as well for getting away with murder. When he was pushing in through that blue hallway, he really should have been shut down there.
He should have been shut down one of those 3 times we saw him do the exact same thing. And I'm kind of amazed that he didn't. obviously just goes to show that the Last Dance were essentially tunnel visioned and looking too deep into bunker, and they were worried about the Goya, who's playing in that typical position. He's playing with the ADS, he's playing with the shield, if they wanted to pressure him or not. But how much a very small change like that matters. They subbed out the Doc, they go with the Maestro. Instead of the Doc playing inside a box, they put the Maestro over by pillar. Then they play Beastly up on the back tower so that Spades can't just walk down back tower, and neither can Young. Young gets caught, not droned out, because we saw Beastly playing on those mute jammers. So it's very likely that Young assumed that even if there's somebody there, he's going to win that gunfight. It's hard to outduel a single shot to the chest from a shotgun, especially the SAS shotgun, and obviously Young learned that the hard way. So really, just those small changes, moving Doc to the pillars, having the Maestro play that angle, maybe getting a little bit too aggressive for, you know, somebody's liking, and then also putting out the mute jammers, making it so that nobody could drone out that back tower, and in their haste, end up committing a mistake while Beastly's playing there. That changed the entire course of that round. And it puts you at a 3v5 where you're in such a hole, and you've lost your air jabs, and you've lost at that point, I believe it was the Hibana that they got? Was it the Hibana that they took out? I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been...
Hibana got down.
It might have been... It was whoever Spades was playing as at the time. I don't remember the exact operator lineup. Could have been the Ash.
Was the one inside of tower? Because that was the Nomad.
The Nomad was Young in the back. But anyway,
yeah.
My point being is that you took out some crucial operators, and then with it, you got to imagine that the Last Dance didn't really have enough time to be able to call it to make those changes, and that's big credit and big props to Joe. Now, they are at a disadvantage for this round, as Wimpy doesn't survive the opening onslaught, and the Last Dance are only 4 kills away from being able to send us to overtime.
Yeah, Wimpy has been one of the star players for Joe as well. Don't let the scoreboard fool you. We had a rehost. Beastly, though, will get Spades, so that's an answer back directly. Rainbow, though, in turn, having some words of his own. Terse words with clicks. Butters takes down Rethinkin, and he is no longer in play. So look at this. We've got a minute left, and then some, and only 2 defenders. This should straight up be a TLD round, but don't count out Prophecy and Beastly. User is down right now and needs to get picked up, and his Butters does get Beastly downstairs. It's all on Prophecy. He'll get one. Nade comes in, forcing him into his death. Rainbow, the last kill of the round, and we go to overtime in map 2.
And overtime is going to be the Last Dance on defense. So that's exactly where you want to be with the way that we saw Oregon shape up.
Yep.
I mean, I guess technically that's the way we usually see Oregon in this particular match. It's been 3-3 and then 3-3. So there really is no distinct advantage. But what it will allow the Last Dance to do is go down Laundry Supply Room with a bomb site, the only bomb site, I should clarify, where they were 100% successful on defense. So maybe defense isn't actually the best, because now they're going to have to either go towards dorms upstairs, or they're going to have to go to the meeting or dining hall down below. Regardless, you have to think that the changes that have been made from both of these teams over the course of these long 12 rounds will change the course of this defense. And if you're the Last Dance, you have been on a bit of a dry spell. Prior to winning that round, you hadn't won a round after the rehost in like almost 20 minutes. It was round 8 that you were successful, and we're now in round 13. And like I said, we had that rehost in between. So it's been quite a while since the Last Dance were able to find their footing, and it's been even longer since they were on D. So it's much easier of a transition for Joe when they go on to D next round. But anyway, this Laundry Supply Room defense, this has been a good sight for the Last Dance on both defense and attack. They're clearly very comfortable on it, and barring that last catastrophic attack onto Laundry Supply Room on round 11, there really should be no cause for concern for fans of the Last Dance.
You know, there is this kind of intrinsic value of defense, something that like is underlying. If you take all the stats out of the way, and you know, we're taking a look at this analytically, and we're saying, okay, well, it may not be a decisive advantage to be on either side right now in this match. Typically in Oregon, you'd expect defense, but not so here. But there is kind of a confidence factor or a comfort factor that comes with being defense first on OT in a match like this. And it's the confidence of, I know the enemy has to make a play against me. I know that I need to just do my best and play as smart as I can. The attack has to play against me. I set up for them. And there's 2 ways you can take that. You can get really passive as a defensive team, and usually if you do that, if you just get super passive and play super, super safe, one of two things will happen. You'll either win on time or you just lose in a complete catastrophe because the attack realizes they can set the tempo and they totally just swamp you with their assault. Or, as you saw from Young there, you'll take little chances, get away with them, and you'll instill fear into the hearts of the attack. And I think that's what's happening right now. We've already seen a minute expired, and what has Joe done? It looks like they're prioritizing top 4 control. They've got meeting. They've got tower. That's something. They can use that, open up those drop downs, and start applying some pressure to the site, but they still haven't pushed the player out of blue, and they're going to try to do that now.
And here it comes, waiting for the C4 and the rip onto the Ash, but Prophecy manages to evade it. Young is going to need to get out of there as quickly as he can. Does he bother to fight it, or will they even be able to open it up? There goes the Goyo shield, and it's a late open, but no! What a sprint in from Prophecy, and Young isn't able to do it fast enough. He'll be kicking himself after that one. Joe gets the first pick that they needed. You were talking about how they were a little bit slow to the punch, but boy, do they land their punch in that particular instance.
Yeah. And that's really all that matters, I guess. You got the 5-4 now, and with a minute, this is enough time to execute when you've got Pillar's control. Young is also a crucial player, has proven to be throughout this match, but Butters, from inside a freezer, really dunking on rethinking there, and he should be able to work some magic from that position.
This looked like he was going to be able to peek around the corner and maybe get the smoke of Brainbow, but Maverick of Wimpy is just waiting for the call. Deep inside a freezer was where Butters would play. There's still a door protecting him, and he'll hear if somebody pushes out. Beastly had already gotten the track stingers down earlier, so the defenders that might want to flank have to be very wary of it. There's a drone onto Butters as he tries to get out, and he's going to hold an angle, missing his shots ever so slightly. It looks like, because both the Gridlock and the Maverick are posted up by the Pillar and Spades and Butters. 2 big kills. Down goes the Maverick, and the kill feed is the Last Dances. They surrender that opening pick, but then don't lose anybody from that point on. Butters, in particular, a superstar that round, and it's match point for the Last Dance.
Beautiful job there to TLD. And Butters, as you said, he was the hero. We've seen that before from him. And I think that's Butters' position inside a freezer is ultimately why we've seen TLD go undefeated on that bottom floor. Every single time we see the attack, Joe up, get control of blue. They're applying pressure to the site. They're opening the wall. They're doing a great job. And then when they start challenging Butters inside a freezer, they all just start dying. Butters has been landing his shots today. And the way I would describe it is snappy. He is exceptionally snappy with these gunfights. He's winning fights that really shouldn't, he really shouldn't be winning. Gunfights that favor his opponent. And he's given his team all that edge. I mean, it's an impressive thing to watch. I mean, we've seen a rehost pretty late in this match, and he currently is the top frag after rehost, followed closely by Beastly. I don't know, but it has been, I think, Butters for the most part, post rehost, who has been, I think, one of the main players here. Now, going back to the bottom floor, it's Joe's turn now. We'll see how they fare on this very same bomb site.
I think when you look at somebody like Butters, is he's going to inhabit the spotlight after that round, and that might have been that winning that round alone is now put it back in the court of put the ball back in the court of the Last Dance. I think when you look at somebody like Butters, he had a pretty decent start to Pro League Season 11. Obviously, he made his debut with Tempo Storm. There were, mixed expectations on that team. That was the old two-faced roster, and they very notoriously didn't make a roster change at the time. They went in with the same team that they qualified for, which is not the norm when a team wins Challenger League. They usually make a change before going into relegations, and they usually make a change if they win relegations, giving you 2 players who are typically pro league ready, pro play ready superstars. It wasn't the case this time around. Two-Face decided to stick with their roster, and Butters in particular was a really great player for them. He fell off hard in the second half, and instead of Mark stepping off of the team, as was originally suggested, it was Butters instead who was moved, and Mark became a permanent member up from a sub in place of Sloppy, who was imported from Europe. But Butters obviously has still shown that he can play well, and when you're going up against Challenger League and you've got Pro League experience, it certainly gives you an edge, and he's showing exactly why here he was good enough to play at the top level for a period of time.
I certainly think he's still good enough, and as you said, the proof is in the pudding. Oh, you kind of said it. I heard it
The
implied.
proof is in the pudding.
Yes, there you go. He has said it now.
Attackers drop.
Now, this is going to be a freezer take for TLD. I like this adjustment. They've got to be worried about the flank, though. There's definitely a lot of potential for that drop to play a large factor here if security is lost at any point for the attack. And with Prophecy on the roam, that engagement, what happens with Prophecy is going to change the outcome of this round greatly. Lots of... Oh, whoa, no! The nade, I think, did the down work there. Wimpy did a lot of damage, but it was the nade who put Butters on the floor. And Prophecy, as I said, he's behind, and he is making it the work happen. He will get down, but it doesn't matter because he's got Beastly there to support him. It's all Kilo and Young, and oh no, they're going to flash each other. It looks like we're going to the last round of OT. As Young challenges, he'll get one. Prophecy is still down, so this is a 2v3. Very winnable. Kilo's in sight. He'll get lit up, but still alive. Finally finished by Wimpy. Young gets one more, but that's the downed player. It doesn't amount to much. These are retrieved. He'll die to a single bullet. It should be pretty soon, but you can see that Joe is not going to throw. They're going to play it safe. They're going to use their gas canisters, their utility, to delay this as long as possible. Still, though, not much hope for Young. He's going to go for a, I guess, all-risk play. He doesn't have a choice.
So, this round is effectively over for the Last Dance. Where do you go on your next defense? Because, well, you struggled on meeting and you struggled on dorms. You're going to have to go somewhere, and the game is on the line. It's huge for you. Joe officially wins the round, even though the round was won 30 seconds ago by them technically.
Yeah.
It's in the books now. So for the second time today, we are going to need all 15 rounds to be able to put this match away. Given how close the Last Dance came, and then Joe stormed back, and now we are in the 15th round, this match has entirely been a coin flip. Cafe Dostoevsky is the third map that is up next. We may need it, we may still not. It really depends on the way, right now, that the defense are able to play. Because the tempo is going to be set by the attackers, and the defenders will need to react. At least that's so far what we've seen from when Joe has been on attack. Neither of these teams have been super keen on letting their opponents set a different tempo than the one that they are used to. The answer to my question as to where they would go is upstairs in dorms. So the very final round of this matchup will rest with the Last Dance on the dual dorms bomb site and an attacking lineup that is ripe with fragging potential and lots of explosives on the hands of Joe.
Defuse as many bombs as they can.
Good chance here for both squads. Now, overall, I'd say that based on that last round, the oversights mainly lay at the feet of TLD, right? They let Prophecy get behind them by walking down freezer stairs. That's an easy hold. A drone, something, anything at all. It doesn't matter what. An air jab. I think they had Nomad. Oh, no. Well, it'll likely be a rehost then, because we are in the prep phase, but that's up to the admins to call. I believe.
I don't know if the rules have changed, but it used to be under the old rules that you were only allowed one rehost per team per map. Now, I don't know if that's changed, but that used to be the rules.
Okay, so verified by the admins, no rehost. So Joe will play 4v5 in the final round of this map.
I want to know what's is going on with Clix's situation. That's obviously, he's not playing in an optimal place, whether it be an issue on his end or whether it be an issue with the game, etc. But this is Clix's third unfortunate disconnect so far. Disconnected on Clubhouse and now twice here on Oregon. I don't know what it is, but I mean, we can all be pretty frustrated because it takes Clix out of the action.
Yep. And
I guess, and how do you work around it? I didn't even notice what operator Clix was, by the way. Was he a
Gridlock?
He was Gridlock. That's right.
I want to say Gridlock because they've been bringing Gridlock on tower continuously. Now they won't have their flank watch. Now they're gonna have to use some of their soft destruction to open the wall. Probably the sledge. Yeah. I mean, it's done. This is winnable for Joe. It's just not ideal.
They won the last time. So, I mean, that was Clubhouse, to be fair.
Yeah.
They won a Clubhouse defense trailing 4v5. Now they are on attack, though, and that's the significant challenge here. So, we'll see how they can adjust, and this would truly be a remarkable comeback if they're able to make it work. This bunker composition inside of the attic last time was what actually allowed Clix to walk right in and get 2 kills. I think he was playing as Hibana actually last time we saw him on this site, and there was nobody watching in the attic portion. But you have to realize that being down by 1 The Last Dance know this and can play a bit more conservatively because they have a numbers advantage. And if they trade even twice, this becomes a 2v3. And that's a very different ball game on this map because there's only 3 major ways into the bomb sites. There goes an early smoke, and it looks to be onto the Maverick of Wimpy as he loses a bit of HP. 1 minute left. Still 2 toxic canisters left from Brainbow.
He threw a nade, and I think he missed it. Yeah, it looks like the nade landed where he really didn't want it to, so that's 1 nade minus for Wimpy. He needs
There's still a charge on the ADS at the bed as well.
Yeah, so he needs to clear that ADS first. Here comes the nade after the ADS is cleared. Young gets out alive, though, and that's key. Gas canister to cover the retreat of Young. Now, Brainbow is going to retreat. He's going to fall in the drop. There's no one to catch him right now. There was someone outside front door. He might have been called back. There it is. It's a little bit of damage done. No, actually, no damage done, I believe, to Rethinkin, who is sitting outside front, which means Brainbow is now trapped inside of Garage. But look at the time, guys. There's no time left for the attack.
The other good thing about Brainbow is that as long as he keeps the Zofia distracted, Rethinking can't really do that much to actually push the site, and that's excellent given the advantage they have. First kill goes to Spades, and it's everybody getting involved at once. Both teams will trade out. Rethinking trying to go on over to help, but there's no way in. They know it with 1 second left. GG's called. And the Last Dance will take this series 2-0.
Beautiful job there to the Last Dance, and they have got to be happy with that result. It was close, that's for sure, but a 2-0 is solid, especially against the fierce competition they were up against. I really feel for Clicks for those disconnects, but we said it was his 3rd time, I think. That's pretty rough.
That's a rough spot to be in, but a huge victory for the Last Dance today, and honestly, Joe made them work for it. Neither of those maps were a cakewalk for what is supposed to be one of the greatest teams in Challenger League, and it just goes to show you how competitive it is. A 2-0 scoreline doesn't really tell the full story, so if you're one of those people who are looking at the scoreline online and you think that this was a blowout, don't think that, because it wasn't. Watch the match. We promise you it was a good one. Anyway, we'll bring Jackie on and we'll go through what we just witnessed.
Yeah, Joe pushes them into OT, but the Last Dance wins in 2. I just heard y'all talking 7-7, and then Clicks got disconnected. Kix, I kind of wanted to ask you about this. Since you have this experience of playing at the pro level, I mean, how does that feel? I just can't imagine being on their team. You probably felt like so powerless and let down. It's 7-7, you know?
It depends on what happens immediately after the disconnect. So let's say that you have your disconnect and then you get like an entry kill. Then you're immediately hyped up. If you're like put like, at that position where you're supposed to lose with that disconnection, and then things just start working for you for whatever reason, you get that pick, maybe you get another or whatever, it snowballs, and that effect really it compounds as well because it works against your opponents. If you are on the defensive team, if you're in TLD in that scenario, and your opponent disconnects, and then you lose a player immediately, it makes you feel bad. So it's about the first kill right after. Parker talks at length, and I agree. It's the same thing. If you get those early kills, you're typically going to win the round. It's like a 70% chance you'll win the round. And that's like 90% or something crazy if it's a disconnect in that kind of scenario.
Okay. Intero, I thought that Joe adapted really well. It looked like they were going to have a comeback there. So where do you think that they fell short?
I honestly think that it's a new map that's being fleshed out. You know, one of the criticisms that I had about Joe when you looked at Clubhouse was when they were on attack, they didn't really look like they were working as a team. They weren't really working as a unit. I thought that Joe played together a lot better on a map like Oregon, but the opportunities that presented themselves to have somebody solo flank or play as a hero is far greater on a map like Oregon, which tends to lead itself to unpredictability. It tends to allow you to make those plays than a more structured map like Clubhouse. We talk about certain maps like Villa, like Clubhouse, like Cafe. There are checklists that you need to go through before you can attack a bomb site, before you can flank, before you can do this, before you can get a diffuser down, etc. Oregon is still an unsettled map. So already we know that the steps that are in place aren't exactly baked in. And on top of that, Oregon being a narrow, somewhat more linear map than Clubhouse allows players to be able to flank and catch their opponent off guard. And I think that the gun skill that's present on this Joe roster, which is quite strong, was very present and very noticeable on Oregon versus a more strategic map like Clubhouse, where a more structured team like The Last Dance thrived.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight, but we have Butters on deck. Butters, congratulations on the victory. How you feeling, man?
Thank you. I'm feeling good.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure it feels so good to secure that win. That map 2 was super tight. So I wanted to talk to you. Intero was talking about Young while casting your match and said that he's talked about leaving the scene and this could aptly be the last dance. And it seems clear that both of you, your former pro players, you really wanted to prove something today. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we just want to be back where we think we should be. So, I mean, we're just going to keep winning out and like showing that we should be there.
And you guys look sharp today. You're winning gunfights, smart strategy. What do you feel like you need to do better to continue to succeed in the CL?
We gotta worry about a little bit more like mythological style that people are playing. So like, it's not extremely structured, which is like what most of us are used to. So it's like you kind of gotta like go down a bit to like think about, oh, they're gonna like have some like little rats over here or something. Like you gotta always be like ready for something like unexpected.
And for the fans at home, what do you want them to know about TLD?
We'll be back. We'll be back, and we're just gonna keep winning. That's it.
Love it. I love the confidence. Butters, thank you so much, and congratulations on your win. Gonna head back to Kix and Intero, our casters. And gentlemen, Butters sounding very confident there and happy that they secured the win today. But a lot of great play that we saw today. Day 2 of the Canada Division, more Challenger League. Let's pull up the bracket for Challenger League and do a little breakdown. Intero, I just, for some reason, made eye contact with you first, so you take it away.
All right, we'll get the bracket up on your screen here, and we'll walk through exactly what we're looking at. The Last Dance is the first team to make it all the way into the top of Group B, as they were able to defeat Beast Coast, and then Joe, they had a scrappy match against the Favelas. The Beast Coast Favelas matchup is either going on or has already finished. So that's information that we don't have just yet. The winner of that matchup obviously will play up against Joe. The loser finishes dead last in Group B. So that's what we're looking at right now. We do know that there were Challenger League matches ongoing while we were watching The Last Dance versus Joe Esports, but obviously in the interests of spoilers and also us not having all of the information, we weren't going to be live updating. But The Last Dance will await the victor of whoever wins in that Favelas Beast Coast matchup. Then they play Joe Esports.
And Kix, how did you feel about the CL play today? It was a pretty tight match. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was some exciting action. I'm really happy we got to witness it. I'm happy for both the teams for proving what they proved today. I mean, there was a lot of, there are a lot of questions always when you have teams like this, right? Because you're looking at players that have all this veterancy, that have all this experience that you expect them to perform, right? But you haven't seen them meet those expectations in a long time because they haven't been playing on camera. So for me, I'm just happy that we got to see all of these big names that have been around in the scene for a long time prove their worth once again, reaffirm our expectations, and even on the side of Joe, despite their 2-0 loss, I think that I think they could be really happy with the result to an extent.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And just a reminder here, next week's matches, Beast Coast versus the Favelas. We also got Canada Division play next Friday and more pro play on Monday and on Wednesday. So do not miss it. And we hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. Happy 4th of July. And again, thanks, Intero and Kix. You guys rock. Bye, everybody.